Don't be stupid, boys. Turn off Clyde, support your side.
I would like to leave this city. This old town don't smell too pretty, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. And when I leave this island, I book myself into a soul asylum, 'cause I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. So here I go, still scratching around in the same old hole. My body feels young, but my mind is very old. So what do you say? You can't give me the dreams in your mind anyway. Half the world away, half the world away, half the world away. I've been lost, I've been found, but I don't feel bad.
It's an extended family, really, but I think it all comes together when the Celtic support come together here for games, and I think the European nights are perfect examples of that. I think Seville was an unbelievable example of that, where you had guys from all over the world all just coming together for this. I think I've described it before as a cause. You know, once they come together, there's never any trouble or anything like that. They just want to support Celtic and give the right signals to people that what the club's all about, you know. And it's not been any different from me. I don't think I've ever looked on myself as anything other than a supporter who was lucky enough to get to play for Celtic.
Skinny midfielder to Mario Juniors, he went in 73. A shock of red hair and a style and a flair that was there for all to see. He played his first game in 75, 503 games for. The boy from the Calton was better than Charlton. Those who saw him well, they knew the score. Whoa, whoa. He runs and he twists and he turns. Whoa, whoa. I remember all Tommy Burns. He went to Kilmarnock, he got them promoted. Then a call from Fergus McCann. Come back to your hometown to manage yourself. It's time you know it's where you belong. His team, they play with passion, with the Canyon Kid, Eddie and Tom. A more gifted team you rarely see. Those who watched and remember it well. Whoa, whoa. He runs and he twists and he turns. Whoa, whoa. I remember our Tommy Burns. In 2008, well, they laid him to rest. In St. Peter's, he lies to this day. And thousands, they mourned him, the Celts, they adored him. The crowd sent him on his way. And family, faith, and football, they're the things that matter the most. If you want to know what's a Celtic man, I'll point you towards Tommy Burns. Whoa, whoa. He runs and he twists and he turns. Whoa, whoa. I remember our Tommy Burns. Whoa, whoa. He runs and he twists and he turns. Whoa, whoa. I remember our Tommy Burns. I remember
Can I thank the Celtic support that are there and are always there for walking down this road of my life, which has been memorable. Can I thank my God and my family for being my reason, and they are all my reasons. Thank you.
Tommy Burns, ladies and gentlemen.
Good day, good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. You're listening to the Half the World Away Celtic podcast from Hail Hail Media. My name's Kevin O'Neill, and I'm based in Mandurah in Western Australia, originally from Coatbridge. And as always, I'm joined on the other side of the country in Melbourne, Victoria, by my good friend and the housewife's favourite again, Mr. Patrick Close. G'day, Pat.
G'day, Kev. Don't you start that pish. That was terrible.
I quite like that housewife's favourite thing. When you see
Kev was, for anyone listening, Kev thought it'd be nice, really funny to tweet that sort of stuff out, saying I was a housewife's favourite. So,
Pat,
shut it, Kev.
He is, isn't he, Martin?
He's the Derek Beatty of Half the World Away podcast. If he missed it,
he is. He's got that kind of homely, kind of cuddly feel and look about him, hasn't he?
It reminds me of a young Cliff Richard. One of those faces you just want to slap.
Sorry.
Anyway, how are you doing, Pat?
Not bad, Kev. I was doing it right until about 30 seconds ago when I got introduced, but never mind.
Oh, that's good. Well, also you heard there the dulcet tones of Mr. Martin Kelly again in Melbourne, Victoria. G'day, Martin.
Hey, mate, how are you?
Not too well, Martin. I'm feeling under the weather, mate.
Yeah.
Under the weather. I have been all week with a bit of the man flu. I think I'm not exaggerating when I said I think I nearly died the other day. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that, but like a true bloke, I'm trying to put a brave face on it.
And tell everybody about it, aye.
Oh, absolutely. Any chance I get.
Good man.
Any chance I get. So thanks for asking, Martin, and your obvious concern for my health.
No,
Kev, have you seen the sketch? Hey, it's Martin Sharp.
One at a time,
boys. It wasn't you. You'd stop talking.
I'm pushing the button. I'm going to mute him. Can I mute him? I can cut him off, can I? I'm sure I can cut him off. Kevin, have you seen the sketch? It was from Man Stroke Woman, a comedy sketch show.
Mm-hmm.
With a man with a man flu. It was pretty funny. I have to send it to you.
You will, because I don't think I've ever seen it.
You've never heard of it? No, it's pretty funny.
I've never heard of it.
Man Stroke Woman? No, it's pretty funny. I do like my comedies.
Back to me, all right? Before we start, last time, when at the shout out, I forgot to thank my wife and got in trouble for it. So, right at the start now,
heavens above.
I would like to tell my wife, Lisa, I love her. There we go. Awesome.
He loves you. He loves you, Lisa.
See?
That's good. So does that means you play back the podcast later on so at least I can hear the first couple of minutes of it and then she doesn't need to listen to any more of the crap?
That's exactly how she feels about it as well.
She'll get her mention in early and it's all good.
Yeah.
Martin, why didn't you just tell her she got a mention? She'd never have known.
Because what I do is I put it on in the morning, let the kids hear it. The kids are all chuffed that I gave them a shout out. And for the last 2 times when I've given them shout outs, she has mentioned that I haven't said anything. So I thought it was best to get it in now early and we're all sorted.
Martin is the only one that downloads this podcast. That's why the figures were so good last week. All of Martin's family and close friends and relatives.
So 4 people.
Anyway, hello again, Martin. Now, waiting patiently as ever is our good friend up in Osaka, Japan, Mr. Liam Carrigan. G'day, Liam. Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa, boys. How are we doing?
Very good, Liam.
Sorry. I should say konbanwa because that's good evening in Japanese.
Oh, konbanwa.
Yeah.
I'll need to write that.
So now you know.
I'll need to write that one down. Remember it for next time. I'll instantly forget, I'm sure, though. So how are things up in Osaka, Liam?
Pretty good. The sun was blazing today. I've got a nice red wine in my hand, and it's all good.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear it. Well, again, because I'm under the weather, boys, I don't even have... The show's not in association with Heineken at all tonight. It's brought in association with fresh orange juice. It wasn't Lemsip. I had a Lemsip last night, though. I was going to have one. It's a fresh orange juice to get the old vitamin C up. So there you go. Now we'll start off tonight by, I suppose, just giving our the condolences out to little Oscar Knox that passed away recently as well. On behalf of everybody on this podcast, I'm sure we'd all like to pass on our condolences to anybody associated with little Oscar, especially his family. And he made an awful lot of friends in the Celtic community, we know that as well. And he was pretty close to a lot of people's certainly hearts, if not actually in person. So rest in peace, wee Oscar. I think you'll all echo that, boys.
Definitely, mate. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay, and also there's it's the anniversary of Tommy Burns and also Bobby Murdoch. As we heard the little intro, there was a little bit of a tribute to Tommy Burns, and as we're playing out the show tonight as well, guys, we'll have a little tribute that we did this time last year as well for Bobby Murdoch, something from the human torpedo that he did for us from the Celtic Wiki. So we'll listen to that later on. But yes, it's their respective anniversaries just now, and I guess thoughts are with those guys just now at this particular time. And also get well soon to Danny McGrain, who had a slight heart attack yesterday, according to reports. But according to reports today, he's doing quite well and he's recovering, and he's expected to get out of hospital today. So get well soon to Danny. Have I missed anything there?
No, I think that sums up.
That covers
peace
it
to
all.
all those, and get well, Danny. Which is another. I mean, it's again. We'll probably come on and talk about the assistant coach down the track, but I wonder where that leaves Neil Lennon, because you're talking Mialby going, and who knows, again, I hadn't actually thought of it that way. You just think of an absolute superstar of. When I was growing up, is when I started going to the games. Danny was a mainstay in the team. You just don't think of guys like getting sick. It's quite bizarre. He's been there all the time, so.
Yeah, it's little things like that. I mean, I think he's 64, Danny McGrain now, but I don't think it's anything too serious. I think it did say in the report it was just a slight heart attack, but I've not read anything to the contrary. But he's apparently making a good recovery, and he should get out of hospital today. But yes, just makes you think, guys. Makes you think. Another living legend that we've got, Danny McGrain. And hopefully he's still around for a long time yet, employed by Celtic.
Now, Kev, there was another. I sent you guys. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but there's another wee anniversary yesterday. Took place, and it was the game, my first ever Celtic winning championship or league decider I ever went to was in 1982. It's the 15th of May 1982, and it was against St Mirren. And if you go in and read the things about it, it was. And everyone sort of talks about the St Mirren Love Street and all that sort of stuff. Well, this was the equivalent of it. So Celtic had to win the league. Aberdeen had to beat Rangers and all that sort of stuff on the last day of the season. It was, and even as a wee boy, I can still remember, the place. It just felt as if it was packed out. But I don't think the crowd was actually that big. But I was reading some of reading through it, and some of the players, some of them you would recognise, Kevin, Paddy Bonar. So here, this was the Celtic team. So Celtic beat. So the story was Celtic had to beat St Mirren at home on the last day of the season, and Aberdeen had to beat Rangers by at least 5 goals. So this is, again, what age would Aberdeen? Had to been sort of 11 years old, I think, at that stage. So Aberdeen were 4-0.
This was 1946, your season you're talking about here.
1982, so Aberdeen were 4-0 up at half time. They had to win by 5 goals. But if Celtic won, they win the league. If Celtic drew and Aberdeen win by 5 goals, then they'd win the league. So Aberdeen are 4-0 up against Rangers at Pittodrie at half time. So I don't think they actually scored any more goals from memory. But anyway, so in the end, we win. We got George McCluskey. So this the Celtic team, right? So Pat Bonner, Danny McGrain, Mark Reid, who you say you don't remember, Kev. Mark Reid left back.
Oh, I mean, I definitely remember him, but I don't physically remember him actually playing or seeing him playing too many games.
Yeah, I still remember him quite fondly as a left back. I thought he was a pretty good player. But anyway, so Roy Aitken then Tom McAdam in the middle, the midfield. You're talking, so the midfield would have been McLeod, McStay and Burns. Still, I reckon, one of the best midfields ever, but anyway. Then you had Davy Provan, George McCluskey and Danny Craney, if you remember Danny Craney.
I do remember Danny Craney.
Yep. He came on for, I think it was kind of the replacement for Charlie Nick for that one season. It was only one season, I think he did well, from memory. But get this, the substitutes for Celtic that day, David Moyes.
Ooh.
David Moyes.
So there you go. David Moyes was one of the subs, as well as, Halpin. I'm fairly certain it was John Halpin, which was another one of these young up-and-coming players. But in the St Mirren team, let me try and find this. So you had guys like Frank McDougall. I don't remember Frank McDougall, but in the St Mirren team that day was the bold Frank McAvenny and Billy Stark.
Where's the birds?
Exactly. So there you go. I can remember half these.
As well.
So even I can remember half the St Mirren players. Tony Fitzpatrick was there, and
Billy Thompson, was that not the keeper? Billy Thompson,
yep. Who would never play a game without tracksuit trousers on. If you remember, never ever played a game without tracksuit trousers. And a guy Gardner Spears, don't know if that name rings a bell. I think he's doing sort of well as a coach.
He was a Clyde manager at one point, was he not?
Yeah. Well, he was from Airdrie. My brother actually was on trial with St Mirren for a fair while, and Gardner Spears and him used to travel through from Airdrie to play. And the coach at that, when my brother was on trial with St Mirren with Gardner Spears, and the coach at the time was Alex Ferguson.
There you go.
Anyway,
he never really did anything, did he?
No, he didn't. He didn't. But we can give him a job soon. We'll talk about that a bit later. So there you go. That was another wee.
Steady on.
That was another wee anniversary that day. But anyway, Celtic won the league that day. It was one of those days. It was just like Love Street. Because it was longer while back, and there was no TV. Well, I think it was TV there, but not quite get the same publicity. But certainly a big day for me. Still, you can get the football program from it. So there you go.
Good on you. Now, I must admit that was. I don't have the recollection of that particular game part. Albeit it was. I reckon I was. What was I at the time? 9 or 10 maybe. But I don't have the recollection. I think the reason I could remember the 86 anniversary so fondly was because it was, I think, as I'd said on the last show, there was the TV highlights that I had recorded on Betamax and must have played over hundreds of times, I suppose. So that was ingrained in my memory. But that was maybe just a little bit too early for me to recall anything. But good nonetheless.
I can even remember, Kev, because we used to go to the Rangers end, the old Rangers end at that stage. And it was used to sort of stand just on the jungle side of the Rangers end. And I can remember when the final whistle went, and me and my cousin, Brendan Riley from Plains, up in Plains, just past the Airdrie. So I'm fairly certain, I think he went on as well. We went on to the sort of Ash track. And I remember I'd only just started going to Celtic games.
Bloody hooligan.
2 months before it. I know. Ran onto the Ash and just cacked myself, Ran between those little blue cars. Remember these little things?
Oh, I do remember them, yes.
I don't know what they're called, but those little blue cars.
Aye, like the little Reliant Robin things for disabled people.
Exactly.
As they were. Yes.
So I remember sort of dodging between them, running on. Didn't get to the park, got to the Ash bit, and just cacked myself and ran back off. So back to my uncle. So anyway,
see, that's why you're the housewife's favourite. You're only a semi hooligan.
Wouldn't go and break rules. That's why he's a good boy.
That's it. He got down as far as the Ash and then crapped himself.
Yeah. That's a good upbringing I had, Kev. Good upbringing. So anyway,
exactly, mate. Exactly.
Anyway, this isn't a podcast about my upbringing, Kev.
No, it's not, but it is about Celtic, and that was about Celtic, so this is good. We're off to a blinder. Now we're champions, boys. Woohoo!
Oh,
officially presented with the trophy on Sunday there, and I don't honestly want to talk too much about the St Johnstone game, which has happened since the last time we had the show. I'll tell you one little story about that, though. I had thought we had won that bloody game 3 because I didn't set the alarm to get up to watch it because I was up early for work the next day, so I needed my beauty sleep, of course. And I'd just checked as soon as the alarm went off in the morning. I checked. I was actually on Facebook and I saw those goal alerts that you get from Celtic, and I'd noticed it was Celtic have equalised 1 each, and then it was 2-1 and 3-1, and it was quite late on in the game. I thought that's outstanding. So it goes to, I didn't check anything else because just went off to work quite the thing, thinking we'd won 3-1. Your beauty, we're still on for the 100 points. It's only when I came home that night onto Facebook again, and one of the boys in the Mandara CSC had put on the goals, and there was something along the lines of six goal thriller as St Johnstone got a draw. Oh, I was gutted. I haven't been so disappointed in a bloody game for ages that I hadn't even seen. Needless to say, at that point, I didn't drag myself to watch the highlights because I was just annoyed. But I have seen them since. But I don't like talking about games that we don't win, guys. Do you want to say anything about the St Johnstone game, or will we fast forward right on to Dundee United?
I'd fast forward.
I thought it was a good game.
It is if you're
I would just say St Johnstone are very impressive. I would say that they're a very, a team with basically no stars apart from that young boy Stevie May, and they really they put on a good show for a team of very limited parts,
Mm-hmm.
The credit what it's due.
Well, the guy because obviously May went off at half time, and I can't quite remember the guy's name, sort of dark-haired guy. Michael, was it
O'Halloran?
Michael O'Halloran, that was the one, yeah. And
Celtic player.
Was he former Celtic player, was he?
I think he still is. Actually, I think he's only on loan to them.
Nah.
Right.
No, I don't think that's right.
He certainly was a Celtic player. I know that.
Because there was something in the commentary about signing. They signed him in January or something.
Okay.
No, I'm sure. I don't think that's right. Maybe he was at one stage he played for us, but he done it right. I mean,
what the hell was that?
What was that?
It's not a train.
It's Liam's toilet. Christ.
No.
We'll come on to that later. Not literally. Not literally.
The amount of times we say this in the podcast, we'll come on to that later, and then we never ever do. Anyway. Somebody take a note. Anyway, so he come on. He did all right. He sort of led the line pretty well. So obviously, like as Liam said, they've kind of got one star in the team, which is Stevie May, and then he got clobbered out by Ambrose, I think it was. The old studs down the front of the shin and stuff. But I don't, from what I could see, I don't think he actually wears shin guards. I'm sure he actually, when he pulled his socks down, there was no shin guard around there. He's not big. Literally,
man.
I'm sure he didn't, because which is, to be fair, it's his own fault for not wearing shin guards. If they'd half pair of, even flipping cheapo shin guards, he wouldn't have had that injury. So, but they weren't going to take any risks. With the Scottish Cup coming up, that's their biggie. Never been there before, never win it. Obviously, haven't been there, but so they're not going to take any risk of losing their star man for it. So I don't think they played. They played a game after. I think it was Inverness or something. I don't think he played there either. But that guy, what did you say was O'Halloran, was it?
O'Halloran, no.
Yeah, he did all right actually.
Good player, he is a good player.
Yeah, so he gave our defence a bit of a time, and then Kyle with the flipping penalty. I was flipping raging. I don't know what that guy thinks sometimes. I just get no idea. Just shake my head. He's going through. I mean, I'm not saying the defenders had him covered, but I mean, I think they missed the penalty. That was in the first half, wasn't it? That was when Zaluska saved. But yes. Really, there was just no need to lash out at the guy. I don't think the ball was there to win, and defenders, they were backing off and stuff like that. But flipping hell, you put your trust in them, and then he comes in with some stupid flipping tackle. Anyway, he might be the one for the off. But again, we will come on to that a bit later, I reckon. But
what do you think? See the equaliser right at the end. Once we thought I suppose after being 3-1 up and then they pull it back to 3-2, it's a little bit nervy at the end, and they were pushing forward for an equaliser, obviously. But I thought the last goal, it was. I'm not so sure that if Big Fraser Forster was in goals, it would have lost that goal. I don't think I'd fully blame Zaluska, but I don't know. He did. His penalty save was very good.
It wasn't a great penalty though. So
it wasn't a great penalty, no. But I mean, you still got to. Yeah, he's maybe lucky. He's dived the right way. He's still got to save it. But I don't know. It was just that last goal. The defence looked a little bit sleepy as well, I think. But I'm just not sure. Zaluska's reactions are. They certainly won't be as sharp as they would be if he was playing week in, week out. But I was just thinking to myself when I saw that goal, if Big Fraser was in there, would it have been a goal? But
it was a funny kind of cross from what I remember. It was basically like there was only one way to get the ball between Van Dijk, and it must have been Effie. Was it Effie in front? I can't remember. Anyway, between the two defenders. And if it had fallen anywhere else, there were defenders everywhere. But it's literally fallen just over the defender at the front, and then just short of the one behind, and the guys just reacted a little bit quicker. I mean, it wasn't a brilliant cross; it was just that sort of awkward position, You can't really defend it, if you know what I mean. But the guy took it well, so you can't, as you said, if Foster was there, you might have had a better chance of keeping that one out. But fair dues to them. I mean, good luck to St Johnstone, the Scottish Cup and all that sort of stuff. They certainly battle hard. So I think I haven't watched a couple of games in recent times. I think Dundee United certainly have a bit more class than they have, but as they showed against us, they can certainly battle. And if they get the ball to May, you might sort of do a bit of trouble. You know what I mean? Casey's not a bad player. All the games.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. What about yourself, Liam? Do you want to make a comment on the St Johnstone game at all?
I just think end of season stuff. I think we did okay, but it's a game we wouldn't have lost if anything depended on it, I think.
Yeah, that's a fair
That's
comment.
a good point, there, Liam.
There's always
scored,
that.
though. Pookie scored, so you got to celebrate that.
It's a good
Doesn't
goal
happen very often.
Aye, but the thing is, it's just like a lot of their players, I think one reason aren't going to be there next year. Pookie, Kyle, Zaluska, I think to me they're all dead wood. So
did you see the reaction of Pookie when he scored though? In fact, he does that for most goals, but there's just no fire there. You know what I mean? There's no sort of fist pumping, or you kind of want to see that a little bit. The guy's been under the pump a little bit. You just want him to sort of react and show a bit of emotion, but I don't know if the guy wants to be there.
But to go a bit into the psychology behind that, right? You guys know I'm a teacher, right? See when you see a student, for example, who every day gets the wrong answer, and he's constantly told by his friends how fucking stupid he is and how he's a complete fuck up. Excuse my language. But then when he finally does get an answer right, he's just relieved that he got the right answer. He isn't actually doesn't want to celebrate. It's like, oh great, I'm not going to get my head kicked in today. That's. And I think there's a bit of that with Pookie. I think he was just relieved that he actually scored a goal for a change, because his confidence is that low.
What sort of skill do you teach it, Liam? Really, what sort of skill do you teach it?
Do you think it's purely a confidence thing for him, or do you think it's a skill thing for him?
It's confidence, because a guy undoubtedly, you don't play in the Bundesliga if you're a dud. You will not get into that league unless you've at some point in your life shown some ability. So the guy obviously has the talent. Something I've said this before on this show. Celtic should look at hiring a good sports psychologist.
Do we not have
players with undoubted ability who just mentally can't cut it? We've got so many of them.
And I think while you're playing second fiddle, because let's face it, since little Lee Griffiths came in, your first choice, or the first choice strikers were always going to be Stokes and Griffiths, because Stokes was certainly coming onto a game. The latter half of the season, he was banging the goals in. So while you're out of the team, it's obviously going to dent your confidence. But for a guy like Pookie, who was still, he'd never really proven himself in the initial spell when he was getting chances. So when you do drop out of the frame and you're on the periphery of the team, you can understandably see why your confidence is going to be knocked. So no, I think that's a fair point, Liam. I think the guy, I totally agree with you. He must have ability, because as you said, he wouldn't have been playing in the Bundesliga for Schalke if he didn't. And you have seen little snippets and little signs of it. He has. I'm not sure how many goals Pookie did score or has scored since he came to us. I mean, it's not quite the Harold Bratback level, but he scored a few goals. But he's I think his goal the other night was not too bad.
Harold Bratback's another example. You think about it, he was banging him in for Rosenborg, then we signed him. He was pissed. Then he went back to Rosenborg and continued banging them in until he retired.
That's right. Yeah,
I think some signings just click. Some just work.
Yeah.
You think of Griffiths.
I would agree with that as well.
And sometimes
it could
sometimes just the wrong club.
Glasgow type thing as well.
I'm not so sure. Does the City come into it? Maybe it does, Martin. But I think it's definitely, there are some players that they can click with us, and there's others that it's just never going to happen for them. I mean, remember, going even further back, remember bloody Tony Cascarino, who was a fairly prolific striker. Then Liam Brady brought him into the team, and he could hardly score at all, a big man. But then he went to bloody... who was it he went to after it? Who did we sign him? Who did we sign him from? Did he go to Marseille from us, or did we sign him from Marseille? I think he went to Marseille after us, and he was banging goals in for them.
Well, I know he played for Millwall and was it Villa? From memory.
I thought, did he not go to Chelsea in a swap? Or was
Chelsea? It was Tom Boyd. It was a Tom Boyd deal.
Tom Boyd, aye.
Yeah,
that's right. Aye.
It was. That was it exactly. But and I remember Big Cascarino coming in. I thought he'll do a job for us, but bloody hell, he was awful. He just could not settle at all. And he was another one that just totally underachieved with what he was capable of. And he went away to Marseille, and he was banging goals in for them in the French league, which was bizarre.
Can you remember I think it was a League Cup at Airdrie, down at Broomfield, when he missed the penalty? Mm-hmm. Oh, Jesus, man. That was... Because it was the first time ever at Airdrie where they'd sold... They had basically an end for Celtic supporters in Airdrie, so we could buy tickets.
I do remember this, because the Airdrie fans were animals that night.
They were.
They were chasing us out the bloody ground.
Only that night, huh?
I'm not ashamed to say I ran away to my granny's in Cairnhill.
Mate, I was the same.
I'm not ashamed to say it.
Well, I lived in
that was when... what was the name of that Airdrie goalkeeper? The Scab. John Martin. Yeah. That's right. Dirty scab that he was. That wasn't a pleasant memory.
No, I'm sure it was
from Coatbridge and all.
Yeah, it was the other end as well. Because we were at the Airdrie end, so it was the Airdrie fans obviously done their cover, and we had the end behind the goal, and it was absolutely belting down. I can remember it was absolutely pissing down.
I do, yeah, I do remember it.
I think I'm fairly certain we even bought the blim of the black and green sort of stripy top. I can even barely remember that. So yeah, but I actually got to the point where when it was him walking up, I think, to take the penalty, I actually moved towards the exit because I knew it was going to happen. I just started walking, going, if he misses this, I'm out that gate and I'm running.
Because the old Airdrie section B were up for it that night, weren't they?
Well, the thing is, I had where we were and where I lived. I'm from Glee, which was basically just up the hill from Broomfield, and I had to pretty much walk through the Airdrie fans to get home. Oh Jesus! Anyway, let's move on. This is not a show about Tony Cascarino and my failings as a Celtic fan in Airdrie. My God, that was a horrible night. Moving on.
Not to worry. But anyway, yeah, I don't know where we were going with all that nonsense. No, we were just talking about some guys that make it, some guys that don't make it, and we will speak a bit more about that. But before we move off that St Johnstone game, I think you were wanting to anyway, Martin. But do you want to make a comment on the St Johnstone game at all? Midweek?
No, right. Never. I'll be honest, never seen it. Seen a couple of highlights. I agree with the comment. If it had mattered to us, we wouldn't have lost it, but we wouldn't have drew it. We would have won it. But yeah, I think we all had our eyes on the Dundee United game, getting the trophy and a bit of celebrating type thing. So yeah,
that's it. So we'll fast forward from that St Johnstone game on to the Sunday then, and that was the day that we were finally, because it's been a long wait since we actually clinched the title to getting presented with the trophy on the final day of the season. It seems like ages and ages ago. But yeah, I think everything was set in place for a bit of a carnival atmosphere, certainly at the ground that day. First of all, did we all, in fact, Pat, you asked me to say this, so I'm going to say this. Were you at the game?
No, I didn't make it there.
Sunday. You didn't make it. Liam, did you make it for the game? Were you at the game?
Unfortunately, my company wasn't willing to put up for the taxi fare, so no, I didn't.
Tight bastards. Martin, were you at the game?
Aye.
Well done, sir. When did you
Martin was standing next to me.
Yep.
Don't know.
Well, I can hear you.
Can you let us know if you can hear us?
Yeah.
We were chatting anyway. Right, let's let's cover off. Well, no, we'll come on to that in a minute then, Mark, what we were talking about while we were off air. But in terms of the Dundee United game then, the question I was asking before everything went quiet was, did we all manage to see the game anyway, so we can comment on it, I suppose?
I saw the game. I thought it was, to me, a typical end of season party. We did what we had to do to get enough goals in. Actually, I've got a question of, boys. I would have thought the Dundee United keeper should have been sent off for the penalty incident. Does anybody else think that? Like, foul in the box and taking the last man down, or taking?
I think it would have been a bit harsh to send them off. It was a definite penalty, but I think usually with that ruling, it's when you are the complete and utter last man. I think the angle that was at, Martin, as well, there was defenders coming back to cover, so I think it would have been pretty harsh if he'd have get sent off for it. The penalty's punishment enough, I suppose, in that kind of situation, but that's just my view.
Oh, look,
No, I think it just went quiet because Tom Doherty kindly tweeted us there and just said lost the sound completely, guys. So I think what was heard on Spreaker was exactly what we heard, and it was just silence. I thought you were just ignoring me, to be honest, for the first 30 seconds. Yeah. Anyway, we're back on.
Sorry, back to the Dundee.
Yeah, back to the game.
For me, look, I think we did what we had to do. I think it was a nice touch to give Sammy to take a penalty just to make sure he could celebrate in that. I think everybody's mind was on let's just get this over and done with. I think Dundee United didn't want to get injured for the cup final, so I think it was more about getting the trophy for us than it was. That was what everybody's mind was on.
Yeah.
But I think we did all right. I think we played well and we got the job done well. So, yeah. Dave, what does everybody else think?
Liam, what about yourself? Where did you watch it, first of all?
I just caught the highlights on. I managed to somehow get tapped into BBC. I got the highlights. But,
yep.
But for what I saw, I just thought for a last game of the season, which has traditionally been not very good to watch, a meaningless game, essentially. We've won the league. They want to save themselves for the cup final. I thought it was a really entertaining game.
I would agree with that. Yep.
For an end of season game, definitely one of the better ones.
Mm-hmm. Pat, where did you see the game? Were you watching it in Pint on Punt?
I wasn't. Can you guys hear me? Because my thing just went skew with again. So, I went to watch it Pint on Punt. We had not a bad crowd actually. 40 or so for late on a Sunday night, which wasn't too bad. But as Higgs has just said in the chat room, I didn't know he was from Melbourne. Yeah, it's just kind of dawned on him, but he watched it in Pint on Punt as well. And his quote, and I quote, "That's a bit of a madhouse on a Sunday." So there you go. And he's not far wrong. Oh, Martin, can I tell him a story about Brian's about Andrina?
Oh, aye.
Yeah.
You can't. Aye, all right. Let's go for this.
So this shows the class.
Let's sit on it right now.
Yeah, this shows the class of the establishment where we show the game. So it's Pint on Punt, which is in the Windsor area. So it's just the sort of north end of St Kilda, and so there's a lot of Irish backpackers and Irish people hang around that sort of area. So because St Kilda's kind of one of these. It's just a busy place. There's always something happening in St Kilda. So that's kind of where when people from Ireland come over, they tend to hang out, or the young people down there. So the place is flipping nuts. This pub is it's mental. There is no other way of explaining it. So Sunday night, I've rocked up thinking, I'll probably be empty late on a Sunday night, sort of 9:15 kick-off Sunday night. Walked in and it was flipping wall to wall. You couldn't move. Thinking, oh Jesus, just full of Irish people. So anyway, so my mate's a friend of ours, so Brian Kenny and his wife Andrina, so they're from East Kilbride. So Brian's wife, she goes into the toilet and stuff like that. She said she's sitting in, obviously doing her business, and there's two other chicks in the toilet having a chat, and one of them's going like, I can't believe I've put this underwear on, and like you can see right through it. Look at my trousers. You can see right through it. You can see the visible panty line and stuff. So our mates turned around and went, hey, do you want to take my underwear instead then? And they've swapped underwear in the pub.
That's terrific. You say that as if it's an uncommon thing to happen, Patrick. Have you never swapped your undercrackers with a bloke in the cubicle next to you?
I'm about to say, what was funny then, me and Pat did the same about half.
And I'm still wearing them. So yes.
Joint, right enough. Classic
Oh
joint.
dear. We were shaking our heads going, oh Jesus. So anyway, we did try and we tried to get Angelina to point them out to us, but she was having none of it. A bit too embarrassed. But anyway, that's. Can you beat that? Game. Can you beat that, Kev?
You don't get that kind of riff-raff and Friar Tucks, mate.
Lucky you.
Back
to the game. I enjoyed it. It was in truth, it was one of these kind of. It was just a good atmosphere, like in the pub. It was. Everyone was singing. The place was flipping rocking. You could hear the sort of security guys coming up, taking a second look, going, what are these guys up to? But it was Melbourne's answer to the Green Brigade down there. They were on flipping tables, and it was taps off at one stage and everything. It was hilarious.
That's good.
Well, that's it's kind of like that in our place. See, when you and it's the same kind of bunch of guys. They're off their rocker. They're a really good laugh. They're just off their rocker. So, when they got involved, and the singing was starting before the game even started. So. Well, the normal chants here, the Celtics. It was basically one guy, hoarse as you like, good. Yeah, just doing all that stuff. It was just, it was hilarious, just good. So it was kind of in a way, the game was a bit of a distraction because it was just a good laugh. You know what I mean? It was just one of those nights. There was nothing really at stake. We'd win the league and all that sort of stuff, and just, having a chat with mates. It was just, it was really.
You're wanting to see you score a couple of goals, win the game, and just get the trophy, aren't you?
Pretty much. You just want to see a decent performance, and look, to be fair, I mean, United have got a Scottish Cup final, as I said, and I don't think they were really trying that hard. I think they'd be happy if they got a point or something from it, but the fact they even had probably their best midfielder was sitting on the bench, Stuart Armstrong, so that sort of stuff just to me says I think they probably just wanted to get through it, with like a fit team, a healthy team for the cup final, so. Which is fair due.
Said as well, it certainly wasn't. They didn't come and just sat everybody behind the ball. They were having a go, and they created a few chances. They had a couple of chances to take the lead in that match as well. Actually, there was one, I can't remember, a guy that skied it over the bar. I think it was from a corner, and Forster pushed it out to the guy, and he followed in on it and skied it right over the bar from a couple of yards out. But They did have a couple of chances. They certainly weren't coming sitting back. McNamara's got them playing some good football.
He has. Yep. I mean, we had as well, with no Zagiri there, with Twarzik playing at left back. I
think with that goal, actually, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. You could just see he's obviously there to try and to prove a point, and what sort of player he is, and sure enough, that flipping thing happens. You just look towards the sky. You felt for the guy,
Yep.
Young player like that. He just wants to put on a good show, and basically don't make a mistake and get off the park, and it's sure enough the ball's bounced off him in the net, so not much the guy could do about it. But he seemed to do all right. In truth, I forgot Izagiri wasn't even playing, but I say it was probably just because we're talking to everybody. It was a good laugh, you know what I mean? So you kind of turn around and you go, oh jeez, I didn't know he was playing. But I mean, I don't know if his performance was that great. I think his brother's just been released as well. It was one of the young guys that got released during the week. So
is that Philip?
Philip's he's the one that was playing. It was Patrick was the one that got released. So he's gone ski.
So not the other way around?
No, it was Philip that was playing. Fairly certain.
Philip Swarzik.
Yeah, Philip was the one that was playing.
As well.
No, Patrick was. I'm fairly certain Patrick was the one that got let go. So. But anyway, so I enjoyed the game. It was a good laugh. So
what about what's your thoughts on the Lee Griffiths goal that never was, when it was still 0-0? There was an offside. I think it was Johansson. Johansson slid the ball through it.
Yeah.
And even when you saw it at the time, I thought that's very tight. But then when you saw the replay, he was bloody in line. There was no. He was offside.
He was.
Kev, do you think it's one of those where, as it's played, as it's played, he started to run? So you're right, on slow motion, he is onside, or he's on line. But by the time the linesman actually looks at him, he's already through, and he's not going to take the chance and stick the flag up, basically.
Well, I think it's that one when he's in line with the defender, but because Griffiths is between the linesman and the defender, the linesman's probably just called it and says, he's got to be offside because I can't see the defender there. But I mean, he is in line with the guy. When you see the replay, it's from the other side of the pitch, and you can clearly see that Griffiths is in line. He wasn't offside at all.
Yeah.
So again, it was lucky it wasn't a crucial match changing or season changing decision, because that's one that would have been a little bit upset about had it affected something else in the season. But yeah, thankfully we got the goals anyway. That was at the time we were starting to put a little bit more pressure on. You kind of got that feeling there was a goal coming, because just shortly after that I think Commons had a chance and hit the side netting, and then we got a goal. Stokes put us ahead as well, and then that penalty settled things down a little bit. But yeah, all's well that ends well. We won it comfortably in the end, I think, and it was a good game. It was pretty entertaining. I watched it with the Mandurah CSC down in Friar Tucks here in Mandurah, and we were commenting on the way down to the pub. It was the first time that we'd all been together at a game down in Friar Tucks since the 16th of February was the last time that Setanta in Australia showed a Celtic game at a reasonable time that we could actually go to the pub and watch it. I've been slagging Setanta Australia for ages, not just in this podcast but all over Twitter as well. I have a nice little fight with them every now and again on there. But their coverage has been shocking really this season. But the couple of games that they have shown of Celtic since February and Sunday there, they were the midweek games. That St Johnstone game was one that they were showing, and I think there was another very early in the morning game. So it's not really practical to get Ray up to open up Friar Tucks and give us a bit of a lock-in or something like that at 2:45 in the morning or whatever. But no, it was good. We had for the Mandurah CSC, it was a fairly decent crowd. For a Sunday night game, if it was a Saturday night game, we probably would have had a few more there, but there was about 17 of us down there, which I was quite pleased with. We had a decent we had a good laugh, we had a few drinks as always, of course, and a bit of a sing-song. I don't think it was quite as rowdy as Pint on Punt part, but we managed to make a little bit of noise for the locals that were in as well, which was pretty good. And yeah, we saw the presentation on Setanta, which is good. The over here, just for those that don't know, when a normal game finishes over here, there's no after-match analysis or anything like that. It's basically game finishes and then it's you're away to the adverts and the next programme's coming on. But thankfully for this trophy presentation one, we got to see the trophy presentation for a while, which was quite good. So yeah, it was good. It was one of those ones, as we said earlier, the season was wrapped up a long time ago, but it's always nice trophy presentation day, especially when it's Celtic Park to get it. It just makes it all that little bit sweeter, and we've got to appreciate these moments, guys, because we're living in good times right now. We've got to remember the bad old days as well. Where there was a lot of us lived right through the bad old days, so we shouldn't be complacent, and we should appreciate every championship we're winning. It doesn't matter what anybody else says about Sevco and we're not getting challenged enough. I think I'd read somewhere as well that apparently the attendances were up this season in the top league. I don't know, was it all over Scotland or was it just the top league? It was only a headline I read, but so much for Armageddon anyway. And again, if you were to take us out of that league, it's quite a competitive league. There was a few teams, every team, I think we've said it on here before, every team in that league on their day is capable of beating any other team if you take us out of the equation. So I think in terms of the football that's been served up or dished up this season's as good as we can really expect, playing in the Scottish League, yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, all in all, great little night on Sunday night. Unfortunately, that was then rounded off with I had some good old gastro following that, and then it's led straight into me with the man flu. So since then, it's not been that great, and I've not had the opportunity to quaff any beers. But hopefully I'll get rid of this, and tomorrow I can maybe have a few little Heinekens again to celebrate.
Nice. I was thinking, just when you're talking about, it's competitive with take us out of the league, and it's a competitive league. I don't know if you heard, if anyone of you listening, there's the Scottish Football Monitor do the odd podcast now and again, and they had one with Turnbull Hutton from Wraith Rovers. Yeah, if you haven't listened to it, it's pretty entertaining stuff. So I forget the guy who does the interviews, but he's a Celtic fan. So he's interviewed Turnbull Hutton in his house, and it was a really interesting bit that kind of made the ears prick up a little bit. And he was chatting about the one horse race thing, and he goes, is it, like, why it's the league's boring and all that sort of stuff. And he goes, look, see, for a club out with Celtic or Rangers, it doesn't matter if it's a one horse race or a two horse race. It does not matter. It makes no impact to them as a club, whether it's a one horse or two horse race. So don't think this whole thing about Scottish football is a meltdown and stuff like that because of Celtic have run away with everything. It goes because out with those two clubs, it doesn't matter. He goes, in fact, it goes the other. I'm sure it was him that said it goes the other way in the fact that everyone else has got half a chance. So if you get a chance to listen to the Scottish Football Monitor, if none of you actually go online and have a look at it, it's a I'll bring up TSFM. Is it .org? Give me a sec. Yeah, so www.tsfm.org.uk, and it's called the Scottish Football Monitor, and you'll find a link on there for the Turnbull Hutton podcast. So it's only it goes for like 45 minutes or so, but very entertaining stuff from the bold Turnbull. Is that you cleaning your throat there, Kev? Are you?
Yeah.
There he goes. That's it. Get in there. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
All class.
We all like Turnbull Hutton for sticking up against the Huns, I think, don't we?
Absolutely. Well, like he was one of the few that did it, and actually came out public and and said something against them. Celtic didn't do it, and lots of other clubs didn't do it. So fair dues to the guy.
Right. Yeah,
showed a bit of balls. I wouldn't have done it because you just know what's coming, And obviously that's what he got. He got all the threats and all that sort of stuff, and his club did, and
that's right.
In terms of what's going to happen, we'll burn the place down, all that sort of stuff. But anyway.
In fact, I think.
Though, right? Sorry,
but on you.
Mm-hmm. How many times have the Huns actually carried out any of that? Never happened.
Oh,
they're a shower of cowards. Seriously. Right?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus! All right, you've lined yourself up there.
I get this crap all the time on Twitter and Facebook whenever I criticise them and all, and it's bollocks.
We'll give out you.
Cowardly bastards. Bring it on, I say.
Says Liam in Osaka, Japan.
Yeah. I've just realised, Kev. I've just realised, Kev. He's just said he's had a nice little glass of red. Sitting in the house having a glass of. Right, he's on the bucket. He's not on the flipping red. That's
got El Dorado written all over it.
Come ahead.
Spoiling for a fight with some blue noses. So shout out your Twitter handle again there, in case there's any blue noses listening.
6783, bring it on if you dare, Huns. Or should I say
Liam loves a bit of banter with the Huns on Twitter anyway. So yeah, get into him there because he's calling you all cowards.
But if you're going to do it, at least come up with something that actually challenges my intellect. I'm sick and tired of just batting down all this pish about child abuse that you come up with normally. It's boring.
Right. That's usually what it amounts to, isn't it?
It's all they've got. Really, that's the only thing they can.
Correct.
Well, that's assuming that one has won the fight for the communal brain cell that day.
Well, before we move on, guys, I'm going to give a shout out to 62 Kangaroo, who's tweeted in. And again, if you are listening, you can tweet us at halftheworld88. It's always good to hear from you. But 62 Kangaroos tweeted in saying, "Hail, boys! Listening live for the first time. Not recorded. Keep up the great work." So. Now, I think that came in just as we went off air, so I hope you didn't take offence, 62 Kangaroo. But hopefully you're still listening in just now anyway. Now, while we were off air and Pat was trying to sort things out for us, Martin, you raised the point about, I guess it's the whole Neil Lennon thing that's raised its head again. Now, there's been a bit of mischief making on the social media, on Twitter with some fake accounts, and I think one of them was Garth Brooks or something, BBC fake account.
It's a fake one, aye.
Yeah,
it was Garth Crooks, Kev, if you actually read it.
Oh, Garth Crooks.
Garth Brooks, you see that singer?
I'm sure it was Garth Crooks when I saw, but yes, anyway.
That'll be the chap. But yeah, there was a bit of mischief making, saying, Lenny's been spotted at down in Norwich, and he's in Norwich, and blah blah blah. So, first of all, I don't know. I know that there was something said. Lenny's come out and basically said that he's planning. All his plans are just now he's taking a break, and his plans are firmly on, getting us into the Champions League and looking forward to next season. But I mean, what are your own thoughts on it just now, guys? Is there a chance that Lenny has managed his last game in charge of Celtic? Is he going to go anywhere? Do we want him to move on? Do we think he's done as much as he can? I'll start with you, Martin, seeing as you raised the point.
Look, I don't think he's managed his last game. I think probably the interesting thing is if he decides to go, where he will go. Now, I think we all think it has to be, I would think it sort of middle level Premiership. So he's not going to get Liverpool, Man U, etc. Right? So he's not going to get probably top 6, right? And does he want to go to a team that basically is going to be fighting for relegation? Probably not. I just don't know in what esteem Lenny's held down south. Like, okay, he's done it in the Champions League, but he's done it over a couple of seasons. I would think if he can get out of the Champions League group stages this year, that will then sort of put him, because of last year's bad run, or if we were to go out of the group stage this year, not get through it, and then go on a good Europa Cup run, I could see that putting him in good stead down there. I think we rate him probably higher than the English the English clubs rate him. That'd be my thought. Now, again, I'll something I've said on here before. There is a point where, if it's the right deal, Lenny, if he's wanting to do it in the top level in England, he has to go. I think I come back to when Martin O'Neill left Celtic. I thought he was, and I think most people would say he was favourite to take over at Man U when Fergie left. When Fergie stepped down, he wasn't even mentioned in it, and I think he's got his last big job, and that's manager of the Republic at the moment. I think there is that point where, if he's going to go for his own sake, he has to be. Look, I think he's still doing a brilliant job, and I wouldn't be wanting him to go anytime soon.
For a minute there, I thought you had these bags near enough packed there, Martin. The way you're looking on.
No. Sorry, not at all. Not in the slightest. In fact, if anything, I think clubs will be waiting at least another year for him. I think his stock is high, but I also think clubs in England are going to see, well, he's not had Sevco to play against, so it's only been the European games that we're looking at. And look, he's had some really good, he's some brilliant success in that, but he's also not, he's not romped it two or three times, or got us through the group stages consistently, or had that brilliant run in the Europa Cup. So I actually think he won't get offered a decent enough job. And look, maybe for his point of view, maybe he looks on it, and I think this could be a bit dropping down a level. Maybe he would have to go to a Cardiff type thing, or what we would see as a drop down, but to get that experience in England, so that then he can get a move to a bigger club. I don't know. What do you boys think? Like, do you think he's rated at the moment in England?
Liam?
It should be. However, you're talking about England and their innate arrogance, anything that doesn't come from their own borders. Again, they'll say, he's a good manager, but he's managing in Scotland, and Scotland's a divvy league. That's going to be your basic English approach.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Liam, right?
Henrik Larsson get the exact same treatment.
Yeah. What you'll get your mediocre upper championship or lower premiership teams coming in and saying, all right, we'll give him a shot. You know, these teams should be biting his hand off to come to them, but the reality is they'll be like, well, all right, if he wants to come, we'll do it, but we're not going to chase him because he doesn't manage a team that we rate. You know, that's the reality of it.
Mm. Yeah. Pat, do you think there's any chance of him going at all? Is it just me? Am I just think there is absolutely no chance that Lennon will be managing any other club other than Celtic come the start of next season?
Come the start of the season, yeah, I think you're right, but I just have a gut feel he's got ambitions. If he was absolutely outright and having no interest in coaching any team in England, I think he'd come out and say it. But I think he leaves. I mean, that whole story that came in forget about the Garth Crooks one, but I think it was the Daily Mail did the whole article about Lennon's waiting for a response from Norwich. But if you actually read between the lines, I think he pretty much said something along the lines of, well, there's nothing to report because nobody's actually put an offer in for me. If somebody puts an offer in for me, then we've got something to talk about, but no one has. And that was, all of a sudden the headline was, Lennon tempts Norwich to come and get me. And it was just nonsense. It was crap. They were making a headline out of nothing. And it was, when you give them that, like you saw the headline, you went, oh Jesus, this is all we need, because obviously we Miao will be going as well, and I can't see it happening. See, there's two ways of looking at it, right? Sevco are going to be back soon, right? So they're going to be back. It might not be next year, but the year after. It might get to the point where he turns. About that? Well, I'll say it might be another year or two. It might not be next year, but eventually they'll get back, and it's one of those things where he might look at himself and go, "Do you know what? Is it really worth the hassle?" Because all that crap that he got before, all of a sudden just starts up again. All the flipping bullets getting sent to him and all the abuse he's going to get. Because at the moment, I don't know if it's actually the case, but you kind of get that feeling. I get the feeling that back home it's just a bit more peaceful at the moment. There's that calm before the storm, if you know what I mean. And we're playing different leagues. There's the big sort of the tension between the two sides kind of isn't there, if you know what I mean. But when they eventually get back, I mean, even if it's a cup competition or a cup game next year, that is going to be so built up, man. It's just, and it must take its toll on you. You must get to the point where you go, like, this just is not worth it, and you just want to walk away. So I don't know where he would stand,
Could you see him saying, I want to smash them? So let them come back and see for a year. I want to, like, for him, if he walked away right now, don't you think there'd always be that little bit of, but as manager, you never took them apart sort of thing?
Well, he has beaten them though, hasn't he?
I know what Martin's saying. Martin's saying really, like, basically rubbing our nose in it. Not just beating them, but you're talking about smacking them. And
I'm talking about over a season, winning 3 out of the 4 games, but winning them well. Do you know, like that? Like, I'll be honest. Neil's first thing, the 6-2 game, and then winning it. We lost the one. I think it was 4-1 then at Ibrox, but then smashed them again at Christmas, and then doing I think that was that the Lubo year with
that was
3-0. Do you know what I mean? I mean, and then we also done them in one of the cup comps. That's what, and look, as far as I'm concerned, you can only beat who's in front of you, right? And he's won the league, and this whole thing, it's a 2-horse or it's only a 1-horse race or whatever. Do you know what? He's won the league. You can't knock it. You can only beat people in front of him. That would be just one of the things. Would he want that to smash them, sort of thing? And it'd be, right, do you know what? I've won the league, but I've not just won the league. I've won it again with Rangers back in the competition, and I've smashed them. And I don't know what the answer. That's just a thought for me.
No, that was the other side. That's what I'm saying. The one side of it is it really worth all the hassle, and the other side is, like, we all kind of know that he doesn't like them very much. He holds them in very low regard. But and there's that kind of side of it, is whether he just wants to pummel them when they get back. And I was thinking this the other day about when the time comes and they come back, whether it's season after next season or whatever. Would you want the first game at Parkhead, at Celtic Park, or would you want the first game at Asbestos Dome? So what would you rather have? Part of me thinks you get them at Celtic Park and you absolutely smash them, because they'll come out kicking and scratching and flipping, maiming and anything they can do to try and beat you, because the theory would be that they're not going to have a team as good as ours, and they're going to do everything within their power to make sure it doesn't happen. Or do you let them play the first game at Ibrox and just let them get it off their chest, and then the next game, and obviously the second game would be at Celtic Park, and that's when you sort of rip the single fish out of them. So I was thinking this all day. Would you rather, if we had to play them next year, would you rather play first game at Asbestos Dome or Celtic Park?
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care. I just want to smash them whenever we play them. That's it. And I know what you mean about them coming out kicking, but do you know what? We play them anywhere. They're going to come out kicking. They're going to come out scratching and biting. So do you know what? We have to sort it either home, away, neutral venue, whatever. So we just need to be prepared for it. What we need is a couple of our boys to stand up, not go overawed with the whole thing. So not do a Mahi or over the years the guy going, the players going nuts and getting too. But stand up, and if you want to kick our players, we're going to kick you back again, sort of thing. Your sort of, I'll be honest, your Malbys, your Mick McCarthy's, your Paul Elliott's, your Bobo type thing. So that's what I would be. I'd play them. We'll just play them anywhere, and they're going to kick us anyway. So
the way I looked at it was that the first game back is going to be almost a be all and end all. Even if they came back, the first or second game, they're looking for that one victory, just to try and because they've been waiting for 4, 5, 6 years, depends how long it takes them to get back, but they've waited that long just to get one over on us. Whereas to us, it'll be whatever. We've done so much when you guys have been away that it doesn't mean as much to us. So anyway, it was just a thought I had sort of the other day. There's merits for both.
There's a couple of points I'd add to that, if you don't mind. First of all, I think, see if you look back at history, when there's been times when we've been up and they've been down, and they've been down and we've been up. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure this has been mentioned somewhere before, but if you look at it, there's a lot more inferior Rangers teams who have beaten Celtic than inferior Celtic teams who have beaten Rangers. If you look back on it, in one-off games. And that tells me something. It tells me that they've always hated us far more than we've hated them. Mm-hmm. The hate seems to be a driving factor in how they play Celtic. Mm-hmm. It's always been that way. And
Liam, has it also been we've wanted to play in a certain way? We've wanted to play good, attractive, passing, quality football. You only need to, we played a thing at the start, I think, for Tommy Burns. You need to just go back to that stage where we just wanted to play good football and lost a league without losing a game or losing one game or something.
Lost one game, 95.
Aye, yeah. So, I think that maybe comes to it where, if you're a good team and you're playing well, if a team just wants to kick you or just play, long ball or whatever football. When, as I said, you just need to go back to those days when, De Canio, Van Hooijdonk had, Jesus Christ, what sort of team were we then? It was sensational. And so that's just maybe a thought.
But the other thing is, though, that, I remember when this whole liquidation thing first happened. I mean, you always knew they would come back in some form or another, right? Because, evil never dies, as they say, right? So, but I always thought that a couple of years in the lower leagues might teach them a bit of humility. And they might actually drop all this "we are the people" pish, right? But the exact opposite has happened. They're even more venomous now than they ever were.
Yeah.
Liam, do you know
that's all going to crystallise the first time we play them,
Aye.
That's my point. That's my point about where would you rather play them first? Would you rather do it at Celtic Park or on their own cesspit?
Smash them in their own midden. Just humiliate them, destroy them, remind them of their true place in the order of things now.
Do you know what I was going to say, Liam? And I think I totally agree with you about the humility thing. There still seems to be, and I actually quite now like listening to some of the phone-ins and stuff. There doesn't seem to be. There seems to still be one. David Murray didn't do anything wrong. It's White is getting all the abuse sort of stuff, and you're going, guys, like, seriously, like
open your eyes.
Just look at the whole thing. I don't want to get too into it. It's a Celtic podcast, not a Rangers podcast, but to me, you're looking at it, and I totally agree. And look, I think there's some guys come on and go, do you know what? We need to take our medicine. We ran out too much debts, couldn't pay them, and I still think this whole thing of we got demoted to the third division. You didn't. You went out of business. And look, it is this, and you can argue about the whole history stuff and can you buy history or whatever. You couldn't pay your debts, so when you couldn't pay your debts, you had to restart. And when you restarted, and let's face it, you were actually, and look, they were always going to be allowed back in, right? For the simple reason. Right, they couldn't not let them back in, right? TV money and just pure economics and that, right? And I'll be honest, if they didn't let them back in, they were going to go buy St Mirren. Suddenly St Mirren would move to Ibrox, start playing in blue and be called Rangers, right? So they were always going to get back in. But see Alan do the, Jesus Christ, we got away with that, all right. Like, we've actually not been punished that much. They seem to be, but it's terrible, and we've been picked on.
But that's the thing, right? This comes down to the psychology, right? And I'm getting a wee bit intellectual here, but it's the psychology. It's the psychology of fascism, right? A lot of Huns buy into, now not all of them, but a lot of them who are the more hardcore buy into the fascist ideology, right? And if you want to take that a step further, David Murray was their Führer, right? He's been deposed, he's been showed up for the con man that he was, but the foot soldiers can't handle it. Just as, even today you still have neo-Nazis who still won't have a bad word said against Hitler. It's the same mentality. Mm-hmm. It's like they still cannot have anything against the doctrine that they've been brought up in, which was, we are the people, David Murray is God. That is basically how they were groomed. And they cannot see beyond that. And they never will be able to, because if you're brought up in bigotry, you're destined to live in it for the rest of your life, Mm-hmm. And that's just the sad reality of it,
The point you made earlier as well, Liam, I totally agree, and it's a good analogy that you've used, because I think it's one that we would all probably nod our heads at. But the point you made earlier as well there about this first game, and it will happen. I'm not so sure it will happen the following season, because I have a funny feeling they're not going to go up at first attempt. But we might draw them in a cup. There's always a chance we could draw them in a cup or something like that. So whether it's next season, whether it's the following season, whether it's 3-4 seasons down the line, we're going to meet them at some point. And as you said, it's all going to crystallise in that one game. So whether it's at Celtic Park or whether it's at the Piggery, we'll find it. That'll take care of itself, that game. I don't think, and this is maybe picking up on something you'd mentioned earlier, Pat, about we were talking about the Neil Lennon thing. That's what led us on to this. I don't think for that particular game there's going to be a real focus from them on Lennon. It's just going to be absolute out and out hatred against each and every Celtic fan, player, backroom staff. It's going to be just an outpouring of hatred directed at anybody in green and white that particular day, wherever it's played. It's not going to be just a Neil Lennon thing. So I don't think that'll morph itself on that particular occasion. But I agree with Liam. It's going to be vile. And the other point you made, Liam, which I totally agree with, and I've thought this myself at times. There have been times in the past when you always get that term in football about, are the players up for it? Are the players up for it? Mm-hmm. There was a lot of Glasgow derby games in the past that we talk about, are our players up for it? A lot of the times you saw their players, and as you said quite rightly, a lot of those teams that they had were probably on paper inferior to ours, but it wasn't just they were up for it, they were just fueled with hatred. You could see it in them. You could see it in their eyes. You could see it in their stadium. You could see it in their fans' eyes, the players' eyes. I mean, you take a player like Nacho Novo as an example that has, he was never born in this country. He was never born in Glasgow. He was never brought up in that fashion. But that wee guy was moulded into some horrible little animal somehow by somebody. And there was so many similar. I'll use him as an example, but there were a lot of players in that similar mould that come the game day. Our players, you know, were they motivated for the game? I'm sure they were, but were they fueled with hatred and they had to win at all costs? You know, that whole kind of attitude, I don't think they were. I think that's how the other team were getting motivated for these games. So it was an interesting point, because I've thought that in the past myself, Liam, that's how they did manage to win some of those games that we were maybe expecting we should have won ourselves. But I suppose going back to the Lenny thing, again, as I said, and I've said before on this show, several times now, I can't see Lenny going away. And I know he will have ambitions. I'm sure it'd be foolish not to say he's got ambitions to manage elsewhere and be that in the English Premier League, whatever. But we've got to remember as well, guys, he's a young guy, a young manager. Now, if he wants to stay in the footballing game, why on earth would you want to take a risk at this stage of your managerial career, going to a club where it might not work out? Let's use a Davy Moyes type of example. I'm not saying that Lennon might go to a club like Man U or whatever, but now Davy Moyes, he will find another job in management, but that pedestal that Moyes was up and held in with a lot of people in the game, he's certainly not done himself any favours by taking on that job and making an arse of it. If Lennon was to move, and just let's say for argument's sake it was, even to Norwich, and he didn't do very well, he would very quickly disappear into the lower realms of football. He'd stay involved in the game as long as he wanted to, I'm sure, and he's got a lot of friends in the game, but why on earth, when you're doing well, you're making progress, why would you take a risk of crashing and burning when you're such a young manager? Why not just do your apprenticeship? And that apprenticeship could go on at Celtic for several years to come yet, if he's willing to hang around, and he's still winning games, he's still winning leagues, he's winning cups, he's getting us into the Champions League. We're doing okay in the Champions League, and you know, that kind of punching above our weight. That is success for Celtic, and it doesn't matter who the manager at Celtic is there. That is success for Celtic. So if it happens to be Lenny, keep doing that. You know, build your experience, build your confidence, and then when your job's done and you've been there maybe 10 years or something, that's maybe when it's time to say, right, you know what, I think I'm ready for a new challenge. And at that point in time, it might be your Liverpools, your Man U's, your Arsenals, or whoever that might be interested in, or maybe even a team in the continent. But just now, this whole stuff, and it is a frenzy, it's all whipped up by the media. It's the season's finished, what can we talk about now? And you mentioned an article in the Mail, I think you said, Pat, earlier on. I saw an article from a clown in the Daily Mirror. So the English version of it. John Cross or something, I can't even remember, but it prompted me to tweet the guy, because it was a non-article. The headline was ridiculous. It was near enough saying he's agreed to go to Norwich. It was along those lines, and then when you actually read the article, there was no substance to it whatsoever, other than maybe the time's right for him. You know, he's ready to accept the challenge. You're thinking, well, wait a minute here, this is your opinion. You're putting it out there in a newspaper and you've got it in a headline there. It was absolute garbage journalism. And I tweeted a guy to tell him that. Still didn't get a reply, obviously. But I mean, it's slow. The season's finished. What can we talk about? Let's stir the pot about Lenny again, because there's nothing else to go on.
Sorry.
I cannot see him going anywhere next season. I don't think his head will be turned. And I don't think there's anybody that would come in that he would maybe think twice about. Would he think twice about Norwich? I don't think so. Why on earth would he want to go to a club like that?
Okay, I was going to just agree with you there, and there's a couple of stats that I'd heard. Arsene Wenger now has managed. If you take the time frame for every English Premier League manager, add it together, it's still less than Arsene Wenger. I think it's now down to maybe a year that they get, and then on average, and then get basically get sacked. Now, if you take something like Owen Coyle, who was the real deal, a couple of years ago, he was absolutely
high stock, very high stock,
massively high stock. And I've just quickly looked it up on Wikipedia. So did some good stuff in Scotland and did a reasonable couple of years. With St Johnson down to Burnley, then 3 years there, a couple of years at Bolton, and basically 6 months at Wigan. And I'll be honest, he's to me again. I could be wrong, but he was like the real deal. He was the good up and coming manager. Now I'm assuming I'm assuming he's unemployed and he's looking for a club. And really, I think he would need to almost start again in Scotland or the lower levels down in England. Maybe let's face it, he could be announced as the next Man U manager tomorrow, and it shows how much I know about football. But do you know what I mean about Lenny? Has to be careful if he does go down. It needs to be the right team, and it not be because you're right. If he screws up at Norwich, well, where's he going then?
I know exactly what you mean, because that was exactly the point I was making. There's too many of these youngish managers that will, it's a job that they can be in if they do it the right way and they're patient with it. It's a job that they can be in for the length of time as all your great managers in the game of football. Like the amount of years Ferguson was in it, Wenger's still going strong. Your Otmar Hitzfelds of this world, your Fabio Capellos, all of these guys, they've been around for donkey's years, let's not forget, in the management game. And it's no coincidence that these guys are the top managers. So don't burn yourself out too early by seeing a pot of gold, taking a chance with some Mickey Mouse outfit that you could crash and burn at.
But don't you think also one of the issues is that they're not willing to do the apprenticeships? So, if you look at, and, Tony Adams probably a perfect example, almost straight into, I think it was either a championship or a premiership club. Doesn't do the long apprenticeship, the Lambert was doing it, and the Martin O'Neill, etc. has done it at the lower levels. So I'll be honest, you can screw up and you don't have the, let's face it, when Moyes, a 10-year veteran, gets sacked at Man United after a season, and they're not giving him a chance. If you're a first-year guy and you're screwing up, you're gone almost immediately, rather than do the apprenticeship at a Wickham or something. Have a couple of your mates come down to play, so that if you're in trouble, they can get you out of it easily when they're because they're that much better than the standard players. But then also learn your trade, learn to manage, learn to some of the tactic stuff, and after 3 or 4 years start to move up. If you look at a lot of Premiership players that went into management, they've wanted to parachute themselves straight into, as I said, one of the top 2 divisions, and they've not lasted long. Who is your very good English player that's managing in the Premiership now? There isn't a lot of them at all. In fact, I'm struggling for that guy with 60 or 70 caps for England who's able to manage at that level. Now again, somebody will tweet in and name 5 of them and I'll be blown out the water with it, but do you know what I'm saying?
But I think with what you're saying there as well, I think that's even more reason then why we should be delighted with what Lennon's been able to achieve at Celtic, because let's face it, he was thrown in at the deep end in that job as well, and it was really on a trial basis. I think he had 8 games at the tail end of a season to see how he did, and he basically got his job on those merits. Now, if we look back to the John Barnes era, now that was a guy as well that he didn't. So what we're saying there, I suppose, is Lenny didn't get a chance to cut his teeth at a lower club.
Yeah,
he was thrown in at the deep end with Celtic, which was a massive challenge for him. John Barnes comes in, kind of similar circumstances, big name in football, heralded along, coming in with Kenny Dahl and things like that, and it was going to be wonderful stuff. And I mean, talk about crash and burn in there. I mean, that poor guy, he was never going to manage in football again after what happened at Celtic. Liam Brady was another one. We talked about Liam Brady earlier on, and incidentally I felt we actually played some pretty good football under Liam Brady at the time, but just for one reason or another he never really just cut it as a manager, Brady.
Aye.
I think with Barnes, Barnes was just, they were trying to emulate what Rangers did with Souness. They were trying to get someone who was, a recognised world / English league player, and bring him through and make him the same coach. I just reckon they were trying to follow that formula. Souness was a bit different, the fact that he'd I was going to say millions of pounds behind him, but he had millions of pounds of taxpayers' money behind him. But just going back to Owen Coyle, he was on one of the phone-in shows. I was listening to one of the phone-in shows during the week, and it was what was he talking? I think he was chatting about the Scottish Cup final. I think it was, and he made a comment there that he isn't in work. He's basically doing sort of media stuff at the moment. I think he said he was doing stuff for Irish TV, for whatever. Anyway, so it was certainly all media stuff anyway. And he said he'd been offered a couple of jobs in England, and he said he hasn't taken them because he wants the right fit. He wants to work for somebody who he believes he can work with, have a good relationship with. It wasn't a case of he wasn't going to take the first one that came along, and he was actually being picky about what his next job is. So, I mean, eventually those offers, I guess, start to sort of wear off, and maybe he is kind of burnt his bridges. But, and again, going way back to the Lennon one, the one I did actually fear when the job came up was the Everton job.
Aye.
Because I genuinely thought that was a good match for him. I think they would have given him enough of a challenge, and I think the ambition that he has, I think he could maybe have done. I'm not saying he would have done as well as Martinez, but I think it had been the right sort of level of club. It wasn't a club that had the same level of scrutiny as Arsenal or Man United or Liverpool or these sort of guys.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's still a big club, it was still a top half English Premiership club. So, and who knows? I mean, would you see him going to a Wigan or a Wolves or a Burnley or something like that? I don't know. I'm not convinced about that. So,
we wouldn't, but English media would. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he said a few times himself that the buzz you get from managing Celtic, where are you going to match that? But then again, if some club's going to throw 20, 30, 40, 50 grand at you a week, what do you do? He's still a family man. He's still got to think about supporting them, and I mean, I'm sure he's very well looked after at Celtic, but when they come knocking the door with bagfuls of cash, I'm fairly certain it's quite hard to turn down. So
I think it would also, Pat, be what budget he had. I think there was some stats during the week that I think Liverpool got more from one televised game than Celtic got from TV money for the entire season, or something, around that sort of thing. So the budget he would have, does he want to go and actually just play in that market and try and prove himself that, he's, I don't know, what would Lennon's most expensive buy have been? Would it be Hooper at 2 and a bit? Like, I don't know that, but does he start spending 8 and 10 on players? Look, I personally think he won't go for a good couple of years, and I think when he goes, he will go for a very good sort of top half of the English Premiership club. But there is that point where he might want to try himself, but I don't know. Like, I think it's funny because we keep saying the press keeps speculating, and what have we done? About 40 minutes on whether he'll go or not.
Well, let's round off this little segment just by one word answer, Martin. Will Lenny be the Celtic manager next season?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
There we go, and I'll give that a unanimous yes all round then. So in terms of this podcast, Lenny's going nowhere.
Yep.
But now,
season.
What about his assistant coaches though? Let's look at the assistant coaches. So
assistant coaches you're talking about, because Johan's obviously departed us at the end of the season there as well, and he'll be fondly missed because I think all Celtic fans took really well to Johan as a player, but he's also done really well. He's been a good figure to have in there as an assistant manager to Lennon as well, and he's served the club really well in both his time as a player and a coach. So it's sad to see Big Johan go. But Pat, you'd drawn up a little bit of a short list of potential assistant coach candidates.
Absolutely.
Want to run us through some of these ones that you've been scouting?
Scouting. No, grasping at straws more like. No, again, it was just like names. I just sort of throw it. Obviously Danny Lennon just been, well, not sacked, but certainly let go as St Mirren manager. Would that be? Would you want somebody with managerial experience?
And a surname the exact same as the manager.
Lennon and Lennon, yeah, that would be a bit disturbing, wouldn't it? So you get somebody like that, or John Collins is probably the most sensible one I think I've heard. If he'd be interested in it, I reckon that would be potentially a good fit. He's obviously got his own ideas and the way the game is played and that sort of stuff, and obviously knows enough from his own coaching sort of background as well. And Lennon has come out and said, what about he'd want somebody that would challenge him as well. It's not just a case, he doesn't want a yes man essentially. You need somebody you can work with, but you don't want somebody that's just going to agree with you. And I thought Collins was a good one, but even somebody like Gary Locke, I mean, he did really well with young players at Hearts. I wouldn't really have a serious issue with somebody like that being looked at either. And then the bold Henrik was mentioned as well. So I don't know. It's just like, it depends what Lennon's obviously looking for, and I'm fairly certain he's got a few guys in mind, maybe from his playing days, whatever. But I just wonder if any of those out of the Scottish kind of game, whether they'd be interested in doing something for us.
Can I throw one out there? Willie McStay.
Well, yeah, he's at
Celtic Nation.
Celtic Nation, that's the one, yeah.
Look, and I'll be honest, it was literally, I was just thinking about it when the email came through today. He did really well with a lot of the squad stuff. Absolutely, I think it was under 21s he was looking after at Celtic. Look, I'm just throwing it out there.
He did really well with Sligo Rovers as well. He got them punching above their weight in Ireland, and he had a spell at Honved Budapest or one of those teams.
Yeah.
That he went to as well, and he did okay with them. He's a good manager, but I think his time when he was with the kind of reserves and the under 21s or whatever format it was taken at that time, I think that was the kind of time that if he was going to step on, he would have done it at that stage. And for whatever reason, I was sad to see him part company with Celtic, I'll be honest, because I got a lot of time for Willie McStay as well. He was always a kind of quiet guy in the background, but he had something about him to get the best out of players. So I don't know if he'd come back for whatever reason, but that's an interesting one, Martin. It's an interesting one.
That's good. That's a good shout, I reckon. I'd be interested to see what approach he takes. Whether he wants somebody who's actually had, coaching experience. I mean, you could even throw flipping Martin O'Neill in there. He's basically working part time at the moment. So would he be interested in coming along as an assistant coach? On a part time basis? Who knows?
It's a bit out there. I think the FAI would have something to say about that part.
Well, I guess who's really the main coach of the Republic? Is it going to be? Is he
top man, sure?
And Roy Keane's the assistant.
Keane was assistant, but I could be wrong. But that was my thoughts on it.
Yeah, Martin O'Neill's the manager and Keane's the assistant.
Yeah, I'm just saying. He's obviously not a full-time manager with. He's not there sort of every week and stuff like that. You're looking after a team every month or two. So, just an idea.
Could you see Martin O'Neill playing second fiddle to his protege?
On a part-time basis? Who knows? But I did throw a couple of smokies in there. What did you reckon my smokies for the job?
I thought you must have been smoking something when you put them in.
Oh, I don't know. I reckon Ali McCoy. I reckon Ali McCoy would be a great assistant coach at Celtic. He's got managerial experience. He'd
be great. He'd be great for pie sales.
Doy wouldn't he bankrupt us?
Yeah, he'd come on, Super Ali. You get the.
It'd certainly be a step up in his career, right? And if he went to a big club.
I reckon we should go from. I reckon it'd be a great signing. Come on, get Super Ali in there. He'd be magic. Somebody like a love-hate relationship. They can have a fight on the touchline all the time. The game of hate and all that sort of stuff. Could do it every week. Be brilliant.
Well, Lenny did say he wants somebody to challenge him. I'm sure that. I'm sure that little rotund shite would challenge him. I liked your other one from out of the left field, though, Patrick. Alex Ferguson.
Oh, aye, there you go.
Alex Ferguson.
I mean, he's got. I'm not sure he's experienced enough, though. It's just, you know what I mean?
Like, what's he ever really done? You know? After
what's he actually doing now? Is he just sitting down at Old Trafford with a shawley over his legs?
Aye.
Is that what he does now?
He's probably on the board somewhere.
He is. I believe he's on the board at Man U. And one of the comments I heard at one point with the whole Moyes thing was that he was going to see games, and I think he'd went to like Sunderland on a Tuesday night, and they're going, "Can you just stop going to some of these games to let Moyes manage," sort of thing. Look, I personally think after really St Mirren, I don't think Alex Ferguson has done much. I don't really rate him. I don't rate him.
Agreed. No, he's off the list. Agreed.
I'd take maybe John Collins before him because John Collins supposedly has got a six-pack and I don't think so Alex has. So yeah.
Alex's six-pack's a tartan special. See, just on Alex Ferguson, I know he was ex-Blue Nose and all the rest of it, but I've got a lot of time for the guy. I like him a lot because he's always had a good word to say about Celtic later on in his career, and he'd slated the Huns after he'd left them anyway for what they stood for and all that kind of stuff as well, and he did that every time that we played those testimonials and things like that. Alex Ferguson was always very complimentary about Celtic, so I've got a lot of time for the guy.
Well, his father obviously was a big Celtic fan, so he just kind of brought up that way. So in Govan, so I guess the old rumour, the myth is that his father ran a supporters bus from Govan, but whether that's true or not, I don't know. But didn't he? Well, there's an element of him who would really despise Rangers because they blamed him for the Berwick Scottish Cup. Remember they beat the Scottish Cup in 1967, I think it was. And they essentially they blamed him. I think blamed him for it. I think he or one of the guys anyway. I think they flogged him after that. They got rid of him. And I think it was he was one of the main targets of why they reckon he lost it. Whereas I think reading some article wasn't actually the case. It was it was just a bad team performance. But I think it was that game. I can't don't quote me on it. I obviously don't know my Rangers history, but so you'd think he'd have a bit of a grudge against the old Sevco or the old Rangers back then. But
did he not marry a Catholic as well?
His wife's one, yeah.
Yes, he did, yeah.
Yep.
So that wouldn't have went down too well with the forces of evil at the time either. But anyway, no, a lot of time for the guy. But I honestly, I can't think when it comes to. I think we might all be surprised by whoever Lenny chooses. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think he'll go with, as was proven with Mjallby, it was an ex-teammate. Now it worked well with Big Johan because he had the Celtic experience. I don't know if he might try something similar along those lines. An ex-teammate that's maybe going through their coaching badges and he takes a chance on them. Not necessarily a Celtic teammate, but remember with Gary Parker there. Gary Parker? Is that his right name, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to say Gary Pendry. That was a wee guy under Strachan, Gary Parker. But I mean, that was another guy that Lennon played football with in his earlier career, and he obviously got on well with the guy and had similar thinking. So I wouldn't be too surprised if it's another name out of the blue from Lenny's past when he was playing down in England that we might see there as an assistant coach as well. Because I think first and foremost, Lenny's got to respect whoever it is that comes in, and likewise with them. I think that's maybe why I put a question mark over the John Collins thing, because they're both kind of Celtic-y backgrounds, but from different eras, and I'm just not sure how the dynamics of that relationship would work.
I'd actually listened to a few phone-ins, and one of the things was it's Collins' way or the highway. And I personally don't think, although there's challenge in Lennon, but then there is still Lennon has to be number one. One name that's not been mentioned, and or maybe I've just missed it, but what about Lubo?
Good call.
Very tactically aware, lots of European experience, lots of Eastern European contacts and everything, and just more skill than God, basically.
I do know that Lubo was looking for a job a couple of years ago in Scotland. I don't know if that's still the case. Last time I spoke to him was about maybe 18 months ago, and he was pushing to try and get... He was looking at lower league Scottish clubs to start out, but his problem was that there was this managerial merry-go-round. You know, it's like... Say, for example, Jim Jeffries gets a sack to Kilmarnock, he goes straight to Hearts, or, you know, somebody else gets a sack and then they get another...
Aye.
You know, and it's just... Lubo couldn't get himself into that circuit, if you know what I mean, and end up he got kind of disenchanted with it. So I don't know if he'd still be interested, but it's definitely one to look at.
It's maybe a good shout, though.
Boys club, isn't it? It's very much a boys' club, don't you think? It's that...
Aye, definitely.
It just... You're right, it's that. Even if you look at Hearts... Craig Levine back in there. To me, it's that it's all, not quite deck chairs in the Titanic, but it is just he's moved from here to here and here to here, you know, and like you'll have boys like, you know, we mentioned before, Owen Coyle dropping back in there probably at some point, but yeah.
It's maybe a good shout, Martin. It'd certainly be a popular appointment with the fans, that's for sure. And again, if you can't get into that managerial role for starters, it's maybe a good way to break yourself in there. You know, do a second in command role at a club like Celtic for a few years, see how it goes, and you might be able to move on from there as well into a manager's slot in your own right. So that's maybe a good shout. I'd be up for that, a Lubo appointment.
And look, one of the other things would be, if we are talking about Lennon, you know, potentially 3 years going away, 4 years going away, do you and then obviously no deals can be properly done, but do you do okay, I'll come in, learn my trade, but if I'm doing well enough and we've got it running well enough, look, it's just, as I said, this isn't a guaranteed, but it was just a name that I thought, I haven't actually heard mentioned, but he's got every qualification in the world to do it.
Look, I'm sure one that you'd like to think is in the running at least would be John Kennedy. Who's done all right at the academy as well. So you'd like to think he's at least in with a shout, if not Chris McCart as well. I know he's at the head of youth, but I don't know. I mean, I think I kind of agree with you, Kev. I reckon it's going to be a bit of a smoky. Not quite saying it's going to be Super Ali, unfortunately. But yeah, I reckon it'll be a smoky. It'll be one that we kind of don't expect. And you could be right. We could be one of these things where you trust somebody who's actually worked with, but you know, obviously with Tomo, unless, I mean, I don't know whether Tom was sorted himself out, whether he'd be an opportunity to come back, but maybe they'll promote from within. Who knows?
Ship and sail part, I would think that's.
Are you in the toilet, Martin? Are you in the toilet?
No, I've just went into the kitchen because I've had to plug a computer in because the podcast has gone on for so long that the power's now down to 5%. So
109 minutes, Martin. 109 minutes.
Oh, so it's a short podcast.
And counting. Yeah, we missed about 15 minutes though. Anyway.
Is that not session number 2? Is 109 minutes?
Oh, could be actually. No, I don't think so. Is it? No, it's still the same one. I've got no idea.
We've been talking about outgoings. So we mentioned Johan there, but in terms of players, now obviously we might as well kick off with good old Sammy, because he's certainly played his last game for Celtic now.
Oh, this is going on for ages. I'm going for a drink. Give me a sec.
Aye, on you go. I'll ask the other boys. So Sammy, he's been with us about 7 years, which was, funnily enough, about the same length of time that Henrik was with us for when he left. But Sammy has been a bit of an enigma, I think, as a Celtic player, has he not? He's been frustrating as hell at times, and he's been unplayable at other times. But over the piece, you just can't help kind of like the guy, I think, Sammy. I was a big Sammy skeptic for a long time. But the guy eventually won me over after about season number 4, or maybe 4.5, I think. But I'm sad to see him go. Part of me, yes. But in another way, I'm sure he commands a fairly reasonable salary in there. With him off the wage bill, hopefully that'll free up a bit of cash to bring in somebody good to the squad. But Liam, if you could pick a few words to summarise Sammy for you, what would those words be?
Well, I think for me the defining memories of Sammy at Celtic, the 2 goals against the Huns in the New Year game.
Ah, yes.
and the winning goal against Spartak Moscow, which effectively took us through in the Champions League. Because we got that away win that we knew we were going to have to get.
Yep.
All right, we beat Barcelona as well, but I think winning an away game for the first time in so long was the big, the big thing we had to get over. And Sammy was ultimately the man who got us there. So
it was huge.
So I think for all he's been up and down, when I think of Sammy in the future, I always think of those 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, is the time for you? Is the timing right that he's going now, or would you have been again? When I asked Martin this, we'll talk about the point you made earlier on, Martin, as well, about whether he was offered anything. But is the timing right for him to move on now and get somebody else in, or would you have liked to have seen him offered a new deal and them signing on again?
I think it's a good time for him to go, because that game in Moscow aside, the last 2 years he's been in a decline. And I think it was with not always getting a regular run in the team and not always being played in the same position.
Yeah.
And 2, the simple fact is that Sammy is not and never will be a striker. And the number 9 on his shirt is deceptive, because he will never ever be a number 9. And I think that was the problem, was that sometimes we expected him to come on and give us a goal, and he's just not that kind of player, and he never will be.
No, he was always better coming in from the left-hand side, wasn't he, that kind of role?
Aye. But even that goal in Moscow, if you remember, he ghosted in for the back and scored the header. It was a run from wide that ultimately he got the goal from, if you look at the actual build-up to it. So, I think great servant to Celtic, more good than bad, I think.
Yes,
but the right time to go, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, Martin, earlier on, again, when we were cut off, you had made the point about Sammy and whether or not he was actually even, he was offered a contract, but he was wanting more money and we wouldn't give him it, or was he actually not even offered a contract at all? That was the point or the question you were maybe going to put to us earlier on. But in terms of Sammy and your thoughts of him as a servant for Celtic, Liam said there was definitely more good than bad. Did you have similar views, or what were your thoughts on Sammy as a player, and are you sad to see him go?
Look, I'm sad to see him go, because MD's been at the club for 7 years. Has been a decent servant to it, so he's not did that, in for a year and a half, kissed the badge and then buggered off sort of thing. I'll actually quote Jamie Burchell from the Lost Boys when we first signed him. He was talking to some, I think it was Man City fans, and they said, you'll love him for 2 weeks and be so frustrated with him for 4, and then love him for a week again, sort of thing. I think that's been, the entire time. That's been it. True. I think you're right about the. He's not an out-and-out striker, and I think, unfortunately, that's what we signed him as, and that's what that's I think what was probably sold to the fans, that we were signing this striker. And to me, I wish him all the best, but I think it's came in this line about not being offered a contract. What my gut is telling me on this has been his agents had a chat with Celtic, and either Celtic has said, listen, and I don't know, any concept of what he would be on, any even just guesswork or something, what he would have been on?
Oh God, I think years ago we used to be able to tout figures for the weekly wages that a lot of players would be on, but it's a lot more difficult now to do it, so I wouldn't be able to hazard a guess at all what he'd be on. 15, 20 grand a week, something like that, potentially.
Say assume 20 grand a week, right? Now, my gut would be, and if he's got an agent, well, if he's got an agent, full stop, and even if he's not, somebody would have had to have some sort of conversation. Now, would we have kept him at, okay, let's just, again, I'll just make up a figure at 2 grand a week compared to 20 grand a week, right? No, but we would have done. Would we keep him at 15 grand a week? Probably, if he was on 20, probably not. Not sure. That general conversation would have been had, and my assume is the agent would have went, well, this is, we wouldn't stay for under this, and he went, and somebody said, well, we're not going to offer that. So technically he's right. He's not an offer made to him, but there has to have been some sort of conversation. Now, Sammy's saying, as I said, technically he's not been offered a new contract. But to me, look, I wish him all the best. But I also think he's one of the. I see him as a little bit of a sort of, I suppose, a luxury player. If we're having to look after the money and make sure that we're not overspending in that, if he is on a 20 or a 25 grand a week thing, can we get a player at 15 and another player at 5 sort of thing and do just as good? And yeah, to me, he wasn't consistent enough to be earning 20 grand a week. I suppose.
I think when that contract would have been signed as well, those 7 years ago, I mean, that kind of money was still commonplace around. Things have been tightened up a little bit in terms of the salary, so this has been an opportunity. With his contract coming to the end, I'm sure the board at Celtic have been looking at this and saying, no, this is the time. We don't want to sign him. It's time for him to move on. He's been a great servant. Let him move on, and that frees up that, whatever it is, 15 grand, 20 grand a week that he's going to be on, that we will be able to get in someday. And I'm by no means saying you'll get somebody in for that kind of money. If the type of players or strikers that we might want to bring in would be wanting to maybe, hopefully you could extend to a little bit more than that, but it'll certainly take up a huge chunk. And it's money that's not going to be getting pumped out every week as well. So it's good timing, I think, to be letting Sammy go. And I'm the same as you, Martin. I wish the guy all the best. I wasn't a great fan of his for the first few seasons of his career at Celtic, but over the pieces, as Liam said earlier on, he's had more good times than bad with him. And he's a kind of, when you see his interviews and things like that, and again we've got to mention the footage that's been all around the bloody world, it seems, with that little J guy that he carried at the celebrations after Lennon gave the wee guy his medal and Sammy went to him. So it was, it's little things like that. It can't help to, make you feel good about the guy, and he certainly knows what Celtic's all about, and there'll always be a place in Sammy's heart for Celtic, I'm sure, wherever he goes in the future. So I wish the guy all the best, but I think the timing's right. Tommy Docherty has tweeted in, mind you, to say, has Sammy only been around for 7 years? It feels a lot longer. I won't miss him. It's time for him to go because he holds the team back now. And you know what, Tom? I wouldn't disagree with that either, mate. I wouldn't miss him as such, but I do wish him all the best. And yeah, it does seem a long time since he's been there, that's for sure. But yeah, it's the right time to part company. Pat, are you back with your drink?
Maybe.
What are you drinking?
Bailey's.
Oh,
with some
Bailey's here as well.
With some milk and some ice.
Bailey's
Yummy.
And milk.
Yeah, you don't do that? Bailey's and milk and ice. It's lovely.
Jesus.
It's a nice warm night over here. It's still about 20 degrees over here, man. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm in shorts. And I've got the bumblebee on. There you go.
Lorenzo Amoruso's favourite. Was he not a fan of the Baileys?
I have no idea. Don't care.
I think he was. I think he drank pints yet.
But this isn't a podcast about Baileys or Lorenzo Amoruso. This is a podcast about Celtic.
I want your view on Samaras.
The contract thing, I reckon Celtic called his bluff. I reckon he's been offered a contract way back, and I reckon the same with Ledley. I reckon both of them have been offered contracts, and they've said, we'll hang off, we'll see what happens. And I just reckon this whole thing about Peter Lawwell didn't offer me a contract and it's his fault, I just reckon Lawwell's called his bluff and went, tell you what, look, the contract's on offer, there it is. We want you to sign it. If you don't sign it before the end of January, that's the only offer you're going to get. That's my take on it. I reckon did the same with Ledley, and Ledley's went, nah. And then obviously things have eventuated or came through with Crystal Palace, and the offers came in, and that's how it's worked out. I reckon the same thing with Sammy. Sammy's went, now obviously try to bide his time and see how it pans out, Kev, that old term. And I reckon Celtic just called his bluff. Yeah.
Well, don't you think, Pat, sorry, just with that, and there is talk of, I think it was a couple of years ago in the transfer window when we didn't get a lot of players in, part of the whole negotiation thing is you need to be able to hold your hold your nerve, and there is that point where every so often you won't sign players because you need to be able to do that. I'm not going to be, there is a walking away point. I don't say it's, again, 10 grand is the most we'll give you. I want more than that. Well, do you know what? Tell your story walking sort of thing. It's actually probably a good message to send to boys of we're not going to be the last girl at the dance where if you go and you try and go everywhere else and then come back and get a good deal from Celtic, you're either committed here or not, and if you're not, then fine. But,
Well, is that the dynamic of the team is changing as well? So if Celtic really, really, really wanted him, as in Celtic, as in Lennon, really, really wanted him to stay, they would have put a decent offer to him that would basically, force his hand pretty much. I just think the whole dynamic of the team is changing. I think it's just time to move on. It's time for a new start. Yep. I just don't know if he fits in to the way that we want the team to play and that Lennon wants the team to play. That's my take on it. So I said if really wanted him to stay, he probably would have, but I just still reckon it's got to that point that maybe you're right, Martin. It's just a case of don't piss fatters around. That's a contract. That's on offer. We have a deadline by end of January, or even a year before if it comes to it. Okay, by August of last year, if you haven't signed that contract, we'll look elsewhere. We're not going to put another offer to you. And I reckon that's why, technically, probably Law didn't offer them the contract because, well, he did in January, and there was nothing else came after that. And I'm sure if Lennon really wanted him to stay, words would have been said. But yeah, I just think I'm not saying he's a bad player. Again, not being my favourite. He's not a left midfielder for me. I would rather see a genuine left midfield player playing left midfield, not a guy who's been adapted to that position by the Greek national manager, and played some great games. I guess his legacy will be the Champions League run. The scoring against Spartak and scoring against Barcelona away, all that sort of stuff. But and yeah, I mean, obviously, the game against Rangers as well. The fact he pretty much beat them on his own. Scored the penalty and all that sort of stuff. So will always be remembered for those sort of really, really big games. So, but the past year he's just been
The timing right, isn't it?
The timing was right in January. The timing was right before now. It's just a case of if he'd seen the writing on the wall, maybe he should have left then. But I'll always go back to the Euro Championships when Greece were playing the Euro Championships, and would that have been a couple of years ago? I reckon that was the right time. He had value at that stage, and probably should have punted him at that point. So, but obviously, I mean, you can't force a guy if he's under contract and doesn't want to leave. You can't force him to leave. So, but I think that's at that point we would have got actual, he'd currency on the market at that point. But look, I do wish him all the best, and I think depending on who he goes to, they're going to have a lot of patience with him, because they're going to get exactly the same as what we had. Man City had it before us. We had it. It was one of those guys that he's a genius some days, and then he's absolutely minced the following game. So you're just going to have to take what you get with the guy. But
and look, one other comment I'd say is, how well did he play after winning Eurovision the other night? Like coming back and then backing it up and scoring a penalty. You've got to rate the guy.
Fair dues. I didn't know he was Austrian. It's bizarre. All this time he was playing for us, I did not know he was Austrian. Well, there you go. You learn something new, eh?
Aye.
We'll give the final word on the Sammy thing to the Lying Awake 67 Shed on Twitter, who's tweeted in and says, he's been a good servant overall for me, and 2 against the Huns that day will always be remembered. Players come and go. So yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that either, and that was the point that Liam was making earlier on about his 2 goals against the Huns. So that was good. Oh, I said the final word to Lions Awake, but it's not. Tom Doherty's tweeted in as well. He says, I should add that having watched Celtic from 1973, no player has frustrated me so much for so long like Sammy has. So you weren't a Sammy fan, were you, Tom? No, I think we can all appreciate that, Tom, and I don't think we'd disagree. He was one hell of a frustrating player at times, but yeah, there's still part of me can't help but still think he's a likeable big guy. We wish him all the best. Right, guys, I'm going to try to start winding this up, but I want to talk about, we'll talk about a few more players that we think might be going out the door, but I'm going to keep it very brief. So it'll only go on for about an hour, that part, and then we'll round off by looking forward to the World Cup. I think we're going to possibly do a couple of podcasts over the close season this time round, Pat. We were talking about that the other day, but we'll maybe mention that later on before we wind things up. But yeah, so I'm going to start winding this down now, guys, so bear with us. But other players that could be disappearing this season, what I'm going to do is, Pat, you've come up with a little list here. I'm just going to go around you all, and I want to just know, is this player going to be at Celtic next season, or is he going to be elsewhere? So first of all, Patrick, Teemu Pukki.
Yes, he will be next year, yes. But that'll be his last year.
Okay. Liam, what do you think? Teemu, will he be hanging about?
50-50, no.
No, right, okay.
He'll go out on loan, assuming we get another striker in.
Oh, see, I never thought of on loan. I never thought of that. Damn it.
That's why Liam's the brains of it.
He is, I know.
Isn't he? You're the housewife's favourite. Liam's the brains.
What does that make you then?
You just stick to being the housewife's favourite, Pat.
Was that make you the Terry Wogan? Is that you're the host in here? The hostess with the mostest?
Called first, Pat.
Okay.
Martin, Teemu Pukki, is he going to be there next season?
I think he'll be there next season. I think Liam might be right, and I'll be honest, I agree with Pat. I didn't think of the loan thing. I think we'll give him one more year, and if he can't do it, he's gone. I think the hassle for him will be, one, we talked about it before, a confidence thing, and two, if he's a striker and he's just not getting games, then he's not going to do it. But I think we'll give him one more year, and then that's it, gone. How long a contract did he sign? Does MD know? Was it 3 or 4 years, or?
Yeah, it'd be 3 or 4 years probably.
It would have been.
So hey, Kev, can I change mine? I'm going to compromise. I'm going to say we'll keep him, but then we'll loan him out in January.
I like the way you're thinking there.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sticking with that one.
I like your way of thinking. I might agree with that one. That's what's going to happen. He'll be there for the start of the season, and he'll go out in January if he's not kicking a ball. Because I have a feeling we'll be bringing in another striker. But anyway, that's enough of Pukki. The next name on the list, Stephen Moyokolo. Pat, is he going to be there next season, or is he going to be moved on?
Moved on, I reckon. I reckon he's the guy just oozes unluckiness. He just everybody seems to go. He seems to get a bad injury. So I think he was on a 1-year contract for a reason, and I don't think that'll be renewed.
Okay, Liam.
Yeah, I think it just hasn't worked out for him. Cut our losses, let him go.
Martin.
I actually didn't realise he was on a 1-year contract. So definitely, if he's on a 1-year contract, he's a dream that once was, and he's gone.
It's just a shame the way his injuries worked out for him. We never really got to see much of him at all. There was that game in the Champions League qualifier when he had a bit of a mare, along with Virgil. Good old Virgil, has to be said as well, though. He didn't do so well in that game, but it's a pity we've not really seen too much of the guy. It'd be difficult to see how you could justify hanging on to the guy. But yeah, he's probably going to disappear. Dirk Boerigter. Patrick, is Dirk going to be with us?
Gone.
Ooh.
Yep, gone. I think he's.
Simple as that.
I just think there's just too much stuff coming out from Lennon about his attitude, and I just don't think he's cut out for the hoops. So I think he'll be Gonski.
He's Mr. Signal, right enough. We were warned when he arrived, and he turned into Mr. Signal very quickly.
Not even so much that, but just I think the little snippets that come out about just not trying hard enough and all that sort of stuff. I just reckon there's a bit of an attitude thing there. Just the fact that even which was it the St Johnstone game he got pulled at half time. Was it St Johnstone game? Yeah, and I just there's the writing's on the wall, I reckon.
Liam.
Boerigter is the shining example of what I was talking about earlier and why Celtic need a full-time sports psychologist. Undoubted ability, head not in the right place. I think he'll stay. I think we should give him one more year.
Oh, interesting shout. Well, it'll be interesting to see if that does come off. Martin, Dirk Boerigter, Is he going to be there next season?
Look, I think he might, and the only reason would be if we spent roughly $3 million, and again this is according to Wikipedia, if we spent roughly $3 million on him, and he's played a total of, and I'm just trying to now check that, a total of 15 times for us to try and get rid of him. We're not going to let $3 million walk out the door on a free transfer. You know, we may just try and cut our losses, but if he has a signal and nobody else is going to pick him up, is he wanting to go anywhere else if we can keep paying his wages? So I think we'll hold on to him for another year. I think you're right, Liam, and I'd be gobsmacked if Celtic didn't have a good sports psychologist, but if they do, there needs to be a fair bit of chatting to him, and I think he'll be there for another year.
I'm going to agree with Pat on this one, though. I just think he's not really fitted in from day one. We were warned about the sick note thing. It didn't take long for that to rear its head. And I might even challenge Tom Doherty here as well to say that I'm sure Dirk Boerigter's a bit of a frustrating guy as well for us all, as well as Sammy was. I don't think the guy's got it for what we need at Celtic, so I would personally like to see him moved on. Don't wish him any ills, but he's not going to fit in at Celtic. He's not going to get a chance, and even if he does, it won't be long till he's got a sick note again. So I'd like to see him moving him on.
I reckon he was a signing to replace Samaras on the left side. That's my take on it, and it just has not worked out in any way, shape or form. So he's played 15 decent minutes against Ross County, was it? I forget now. And I've got a couple of flashes here and there when he's come in, but time's up. I think
not set the header on fire. That's
he hasn't.
The next name, Berham Kayal, Pat.
No, get rid of him. Sign Stuart Armstrong. Been saying that for ages. Yep. Sign Stuart Armstrong. There you go. Sell him. Not sell him. Get rid of him. Sell Stuart Armstrong. Buy Stuart Armstrong from Dundee United.
Okay, right. Liam, Berham Kayal. Will he be there next season?
Get rid of him. Attitude not right. No, just no. Sorry, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Oh my goodness! What's with all this hatred for Berham? Martin.
I just think he's no trying, and that just pisses me off. Players of limited ability, fine, but the guy just isn't trying, and I just can't handle that.
You've had too much red wine, Liam.
Yeah.
Martin.
I'm going to make.
He's just spoiling for a fight tonight, isn't he?
He's on the jungle. He's firing up. He's been on. You know what he's been on? He's been on Stella's, and he's had more than 6 or 7.
He has.
He's
White beer.
Berham Kayal.
I'm going to make a prediction. Berham Kayal is going to win Player of the Year next year.
Oh my
God. What for who?
For Celtic.
Oh really? Oh, jeez.
That's my prediction.
So by that, he's obviously going to be at Celtic next season. If that's your prediction,
he's going to be at Celtic, and he's going to play at least 30 games for us, including some Champions League group stage games. And Player of the Year, you heard it here first.
And possibly last.
Yeah.
Berham Kayal, remember when we first signed him and he broke into the team and he was playing superbly well, and then he broke his arm up at Cali Thistle, I think, with only a couple of games to go in a season or something like this, and we started going downhill after that. And he's never ever been the same since he came back from that injury, since he's been out. Now, relatively recently, he's been getting a lot of bad press, and there was an article I read after we'd won or clinched the title at Celtic Park, and the fans all came out, and Kayal was taking a selfie of himself with the guys and the rest of the team in the background. But this journalist, whoever it was, had just said, blah blah blah, look, it's all about him, it's not about the team. And I didn't have that take on it at all. I just took on it and, here's a guy. It's changed days that we're living in. Guys have phones, guys take selfies. I thought nothing of that at all, but this guy was trying to turn people against Kayal and saying, it's all about Kayal, it's all about... There was none of that at all. I've never seen any arrogance from Kayal in any way, shape or form. So I don't know where this whole anti-Berham stuff's coming from. But But I think he's never quite hit the heights as he did for his first spell when he first signed for us. I still think the guy's got ability. I don't think he's another player that needs a good run of games in the team. But with his signing another guy that's been out for a while, near Beaton as well, I don't think there's much room in our team for Kyle, unfortunately. I quite like the guy, and again I always cast my mind back to that spell when he first broke into the team, and I really liked him and I thought he would go on to do great things. I don't quite think he's got it in him to become that player of the year like your prediction, Martin. But
you heard it here first. I'm telling you right now.
But it'd be interesting. I don't know what
and he's going to be player of the year next year.
Right, I don't know what he's got left. Does anybody know what he's got left on his contract? Has he still got a couple of years left, or a year or something?
I think he's actually been with us for almost 4 years. So I think let's see, he signed for us 2010. He signed for us, so in July 2010. So look, and for a 4-year deal. So yeah.
Right, so his deal's pretty much up then.
All right.
He's coming to an end, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't renew it, because I think again they'll be looking to strengthen. I know I'm saying we've got quite a strong midfield just now anyway, but I think that's a position we might be looking to strengthen anyway. So yeah, it's just never quite worked out for him since that injury, unfortunately. But it's I don't know where he gets all his bad press from, and Liam wanting to start fights with him and stuff like that as well.
Right.
Anyway, right, we'll move on from him. There's only 2 more to go on this list. So, Amido Balde, another enigmatic striker. Pat, is Amido going to be with us? Amido effing Balde. Did you hear the players actually singing that to him when they were getting presented with the trophy? Scott Brown was singing it to him when they lifted the trophy up. Did you not hear a couple of the players were singing it to him?
There was too much noise in the pub to hear in. No, I didn't hear that, but no, I think he's best case for him. He's a loan candidate. Worst case, then he might be for the off, but I reckon, yeah, probably a loan deal somewhere. Because I reckon Tony Watt will come back, and I think he'll hopefully have, changed his attitude a little bit, and he'll be all the better for it. So hopefully he comes back and does the job, but it's one less chance I think for Baldy between Griffiths, between Stokes, Pookie. I think I've already said we reckon he'll be gone, but throw in Watt in there. I think it's getting a bit tough for him to find a spot.
Plus, there's every chance another striker will be coming in anyway.
Well, possibly. Obviously, your mate, Finn Bogason, or Finn Bogason, or Finn Bagason, or Fogonson. He might. Well, he's said he's not going to sign for I forget his club in Holland. Heerenveen. Yep. So get someone like him. There's obviously talk of Hooper. But I can't see Hooper coming back. But anyway, so you could be right. There could be another striker coming in as well. But yeah, I guess we'll see how we go. But I just reckon, just too many ahead of him in the queue. I think the best he could probably get is coming on as sub and stuff like that. But you'd like to see him have a bit of a crack, and a bit of a run in the team, but I don't think.
While Griffiths and Stokes are banging goals in, it's going to be difficult.
It is. Yep.
Liam Balde, is he going to be there for this next season?
I hope so. He deserves a chance. We haven't seen enough of them to make a judgment, and especially with strikers, they need a good run of, I would say, about 10 to 12 games. Classic example, if you remember Magic Żurawski.
Yes.
He played, I think it was 9 games before he scored his first goal. And then went on a run, ended up getting about 18, 20 goals that season. So, some strikers need time to bed into a team, and he's never had that time.
Martin, Amido Balde, will he be there next season?
No, he'll be gone.
Just like that. He's not going to be player of the season candidate.
No, he'll be gone. That's it. It's all over for him.
Fair enough. Right, the last guy that we've got on the list, I reckon, Big Balde, is he going to be around? He might still be around actually, but he might get punted out on loan. He might go out in the January window on loan again, maybe something like that. Right, the last person on our list, and then we'll talk a little bit about the World Cup, and then we'll finish it off. Pat's boyfriend, Tommy Rogic.
Pat's love child.
Pat, good old Tam Rogic. Now, this is a nice little segue into the World Cup because
it is. There you go.
Tam Rogic has been named in the initial squad. It's been named for Australia for the World Cup. Now, they will be whittling it down, I believe. So it still remains to be seen, is Thomas going to be there or not. But if we're talking about now, it could be good for him because it'll showcase his talents if he actually gets a game and he's not injured. Because he has been injured when he went back to the Melbourne victory. He picked up an injury there for the closing games. So we've not seen him really for a little while. But yeah, it could be good because it's good experience for the guy if he does get a run out of games, if he's able to play. And if that is the case, you would think to yourself it can only be of benefit to Celtic. But is Tom Rogic going to be given the chance at Celtic? Pat?
I would like to see him do it just for the fact of having an Australian player there. No, it's really just the fact that it gives us good press, put it that way. The fact that Celtic have an Australian player, it's nothing more than that. I think the guy's a good player, he's got a bit of skill. And I'm not saying it's an attitude thing, but I think he seems to be one of these guys that's played soccer a bit too late in his life, and I just don't think he's, obviously very skilled and, his footwork and stuff like that, but, I think defensively, I think he still lacks a big bit, not even a little bit, a big bit. And for such a and I think the fact, for a guy with such a big frame, he could be a great player, but I just reckon there's so many guys ahead of him in the queue now. I just reckon he'll fancy, anyone from Brown to Beaton to Johansson. There's just so many guys ahead of him in the queue that I think it's going to be really tough for him. So that could be another sort of January loan deal. He'll come back after the World Cup. And I can't really see him getting any time in the World Cup though. He's just, for anyone who has and I've only followed his progress in the Australian Football League, the A-League, which is when he signed Melbourne Victory, and he was been injured more often than not.
He was injured more than he actually got his games when he came back.
No, it was a great idea and stuff like that to bring him out here to try and give him some game time before the World Cup. Totally agree, it's a fair call. Celtic done the right thing, I reckon, and it gives him a bit of exposure and stuff like that, but that just has not worked either, No, and the fact he's going to go to a World Cup really, underprepared. I think the best you might see him come on as a sub in maybe a game or two, but that's about your whack. So unless he comes in and does absolutely magnificent things in the World Cup, I think we'll be not so much stuck with him. But there's a lot of interest in Australia for his talents, put it that way. So there's a lot of teams that they've got that kind of fallback, and I don't think they spent massive money on him, so they wouldn't lose. I mean, you'd be talking hundreds of thousands of pounds, which is, in the big scheme of things for Celtic is not a lot. But
Pat, it was $750,000 we spent on him, but that could be wrong. But
is that Wikipedia again, Martin?
No, I was actually had a conversation with some people because I think that is the most that's been spent from the A-League to somebody going overseas. We could be wrong about that, but there was a couple of guys I knew followed the A-League pretty closely, and nobody could think of a more expensive A-League player. And I think it was $750, but again, could be wrong about that.
So that would be what, £350,000, £400,000, something like that, maybe. Yeah, so just say 400,000, but you get money back on him, put it that way, because he's young enough and he's got enough potential and there's enough interest. For most, pretty much any A-League team would love to have Tom Rogic in the team. If he doesn't quite make the Scottish League, that's fair enough. But and you might want to try and have another crack at another team in Europe somewhere. But probably wouldn't do him any harm to go out and play for someday on loan, Dundee United or someone like that. An actual a decent team. Again, just showcase his skills. But I just reckon he'll be. Actually, when does A-League start? I forget now. What time is that?
October, is it not? Because it's after the AFL Grand Finals and
stuff. So it'd be October, November, yeah. So it'd be about that time. So obviously, if he's back at the team and he's not getting in there, you're probably looking at January window again. Because A-League's just only finished a week or two ago. Yeah. So you'd have the best part of 6-8 months over here. So that could potentially be another January loan deal. But,
I would actually think if he was to go on loan, if we've signed him on a couple of year contract, I would think if he was to go on loan, I'd want him to go on loan in Scotland to get used to the physical play, the fields over there, all that, and then come back to us. And maybe it would be a year-long loan from the start, sort of thing. But
maybe, yeah.
It's a good point. I guess it depends what Celtic's long-term view of Tommy Rogic is. If we do want to try to give him a good shot, then I would agree, Martin, that'd be the better idea, to try to loan him out to a Premier League team, Scottish Premier League team, rather than back to Australia to see if he can hack it at that level. But yeah, if it's a case of just then trying to move him on because they've already realised it's not going to work out, then move him. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets another loan to an A-League club in Australia, with the hope that they might sign him at the end of it. Liam, I mean, your own thoughts on Tommy Rogic before we move on?
Well, here's the thing right now. I don't know if this was reported in Australia, but I've got a slightly different view of Tom Rogic based on what I've heard over here. Now, before he went back to Melbourne, I don't know if this was reported, but it was heavily hinted he was going to come and play in the J-League.
Yep,
it was. Yep.
Now, what I heard, now again, I don't know if this is true or not, I'm talking from like third-party sources here, right? But people who don't usually bullshit me. The contract was there to be signed. I believe it was Shimizu Espals, maybe? It might be Cashman. Anyway, it was a sort of a middle-of-the-road J-League team that were going to take him on. A team that could really win anything.
Whoever Graham Arnold manages or coaches is involved with.
Right, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a middle-of-the-road team, anyway, a team that weren't really looking like winning anything. And apparently, again, I don't know if this is true, so if it's wrong, I'll apologise later, but Rogic kind of threw the toys at the pram and I don't want to play here, I want to go home.
All right.
So he kind of backed out at the last minute and burnt a lot of bridges, pissed off a lot of people at Celtic and in Japan as well.
All right. Okay.
So I don't know if that's true. This is just what I'm hearing. It might just be a disgruntled Japanese agent because the thing didn't work out for him. But I tend to believe it. And if that's the case, then I don't think he'll be back at Celtic. We don't want people with that kind of immature attitudes.
What was reported over here was that the club had not budgeted for the wages that was basically being asked for.
Right.
And that's why it fell through. He was always going to go there, and then they decided that the club decided it wasn't anything to do with him. The club decided that they didn't have the finance after all to support him, to support his the wages he was asking for. So that's what was said. That was said over here.
I find that hard to believe though, simply because that would all be agreed before you even get to the contract stage,
Yeah, and I think that was
somebody. The first thing you find out is how much money's he on,
And I think that's what was reported, but I think the report then was they realised, oh wait a minute, we don't have the money that we thought we had, so we can't offer them the money that we'd promised them, so it fell through. But who knows what the truth is? But it didn't happen for one reason or t'other.
Is that club as well? Is that not the same club that Graham Arnold's at? That's wee Michael McGlinchey went to as well from the Central Coast Mariners.
Is it?
Ex-Celt Michael McGlinchey. I'm sure that's where he's playing just now as well. Yeah, he went over with Arnold.
I know Arnold. Is Arnold not now back at Sydney?
No,
I think there was talk of him coming back. I think that was because they sacked their coach, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I think it was because of the rumour was, I think, because they thought Arnold was available. So Graham Arnold's. Right. I think Graham Arnold, for anyone who obviously outside Australia listening, I think he's been a quite a successful sort of Australian soccer coach, and he went overseas to Japan. It was only a year ago, wasn't it? It'd only been the end of last season.
Right. Again, according to Wikipedia, who Arnold managed, McGlinchey is there, and Arnold is back at Sydney FC on the 8th of May.
All right, so
they've signed him
for Michael McGlinchey signing for Sydney FC soon.
Vegalta Sendai, that's who it is, right? I knew it was a middle of the road team. Sendai, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, will he stay? Who was chatting?
Based on what I've heard, no.
Right.
So.
Gonski.
We'll see how it does pan out anyway, and again, as I said, there's a little segue into how we're going to round the show off tonight anyway. It has been a long one again, lads, even though I said with my man flu that it was going to be shorter.
End of season, Kev. End of season. Come on.
End of season. So we've got a World Cup on our doorstep now. First of all, I want to find out, because I'll be honest, guys, I've never been as passionate a fan of the old international football at all. Right? I've never had that real affinity with Scotland as a national team. I've never even really had that affinity with Ireland, I guess, as a national team. I like to see Scotland win their games. I love to see Ireland win their games. The only Scotland game I've ever been to was Scotland versus Ireland, and I was in the Ireland end, I have to say, supporting Ireland. But it's never ever, international football for many, many years for me has never done it for me, sort of thing. It's Celtic, and that's about it in terms of getting passionate about it. But I like the World Cup as a spectacle, but the games that'll I guess interest me more is probably the opening game, because it'll just be nice to see the whole thing, blah blah blah. But there won't be. I won't be like I used to do when I was little, trying to watch every single game of it. I'll probably watch, or try and watch the games, England versus whoever the hell they're playing, to cheer on the other team. But for me, the World Cup it's not got the same feel for me as it maybe used to have in the days of the Socrates and the Zicos and all that stuff. It's just, it's not the same. I think because it's going to be in Brazil, I'm hoping that it's going to be a real showpiece and a showcase, and it's going to be a spectacle. But I can't get excited about the World Cup, guys, I must admit. I'm not sure who's going to win it. I think Brazil, because it's in their home patch. I'm not sure. They're going to be pretty difficult to beat, I suppose, at home. But I think some of the other South Americans, or the likes of Mexico, could be tough as well. Spain will be there or thereabouts. I think some of the other European teams might struggle a little bit, as they always tend to do when they go to when they go to South America or the Americas. So I think it's still. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to be a Brazil or a Spain that's going to win it this year. But that's my thoughts on it. I'm not as I've just said, I'm not a huge fan of the old international football stuff. It doesn't excite me too much. But Liam, you were going to maybe mention a few players to keep your eyes out for that might actually even interest Celtic in this World Cup.
Well, I mean, I've been doing some research the last few days, and I thought, before the World Cup, I love the World Cup. I've always loved the World Cup. Although I kind of had a depressing realisation the other day that I teach kids who are aged at 10 to 15, and I just realised none of them have ever been alive to see Scotland in a World Cup. It's never happened.
There you go. That's how long ago it was.
They've been on this earth, they've never been to a World Cup. But so what I did was I focused on players that could realistically be within Celtic's price range, within the sort of a 2 to 5 million kind of bracket. So obviously a few of them are Japanese, because that's the players I know about the most. But I've got a couple of European ones as well. So I'll talk. I've got my top 5 here. I'll talk you through them.
See, this is what we need, boys. Liam does research here. He's prepared, he does research, he adds value to this podcast.
Kev, let me just interject there, Kev. Who's the one that does all the agendas and stuff like that, and actually even gets links so that you guys don't actually have to go and look for anything? So, Liam, I commend you for doing research. Pat, I commend me for doing research. Kev, Martin, what do you do? Exactly.
We're the cool kids up the back of the class. When you two swats are at the front being teacher's pet, that's what we're doing.
No, you're the guys that are standing in the playground, and as soon as somebody walks in, have you done your homework for last night? Aye. Can I just copy it? And then I can get as good a score as you, even though I've done no work. Is that all right?
It's very difficult keeping control of you three.
Aye.
Unbelievable.
Right, boys, come on. This has been going on for a week and a half. Come on.
Right, Liam, give us your 5.
Make it top 3. Top 3, there you go. Top 3, forget your 5.
Start taking notes.
Alright, so first one is the boy Kakitani. Yoichiro Kakitani plays for Osaka in Japan. And boy's an absolute star. I've sent you YouTube videos of him before. That the boy's the next Nakamura. He's an absolute genius.
Position? You have talked about this before.
He's your basic number 10. You play striker or play off the striker or play as an attacking midfielder, depending on what you want. Now, the other two, I don't know if it's confirmed that these guys are in the squads yet, because these teams haven't announced their squads yet. But next one is a German player, Julian Draxler.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
Currently plays for Schalke. Now, the thing is, Schalke aren't the team they used to be, so I don't think this guy would be that expensive to pick up. Probably about 5 million, I would guess. He's in the German national team now. He's played 11 games for them in the last 2 years. He's a big boy, 6 foot. Attacking midfielder, has been likened to Michael Ballack quite a lot in the media. Very similar kind of player. So if you remember Michael Ballack, he's very much in that role.
Yeah.
Now, right, next one is a Korean player, Park Joo-hoo. Currently plays for currently plays for Mainz. He's a left back. Left back, can also play left wing or midfield. Kind of similar to Chadu Ri, but better.
He bloody hope so.
Well, the thing is though, like Korea produces a lot of these players because Korean players are all about pace and trickiness. So they produce a lot of wingers and a lot of wing backs. And this guy's the latest one to come out who's meant to be quite good. He's 27 now, so he's been around a wee while, but still never quite made it to a big club, if you know what I mean. He's kind of banded around Europe for a wee while, but he's a guy that, if you take a chance on him, probably get him for maybe 2 million quid. Decent investment, I think. So that's my top 3. I mean, I've got another couple I could talk about, but you don't want to be here all night.
No, I want to hear them. Have you got another Japanese in there?
I'll give you one more Japanese. Let's see. Hiroshi Kiyotake. Currently plays for Nuremberg. Striker. But he's quite tall for a Japanese. He's almost 6 foot. Which is kind of unheard of in Japan. So he actually plays almost as a target man for them sometimes. But he can also do playmaker, and he links up with the attack pretty well. So he's not really become a dominant force in the Japan team because you've got Honda and Kagawa who play kind of similar positions. But the boy's a player, You wouldn't get to play in Germany if you're a dud, Yeah, unless your name's Timo Pukki, but
Oh, harsh.
But so that's my players to watch out for.
No, that's good. I definitely like the sound of is it Kakatani, the first one that you mentioned there?
Aye.
Anybody that you describe as that number 10 player interests me, because that's the type of players I love seeing in the hoops. What's his contract status just now though, Liam? Is he a big thing in Japan as well? Because that'd be the type of thing obviously that would interest the Celtic board as well, getting that type of Nakamura type big star player over here.
The thing about Japan is like any player who plays in Europe becomes an overnight superstar. So basically Kakatani I think he's the most gifted player in Japan at the moment. But in terms of coverage, he doesn't really get much because you've got Honda playing for AC Milan, you've got Nagatomo playing for Inter Milan, you've got Kagawa at Man United. These are the guys who get all the coverage. Once Kakatani makes that move to Europe, wherever he goes, he's going to be on that level because he is that good. I think.
I trust you, Liam. I trust you. Start tweeting out some of those links to his stuff on YouTube, and we'll start spreading the rumours. See if we can do. You might get some commission on this, Liam, if we do sign him.
Aye, that'll be right. It's Celtic we're talking about. Come on.
Right. Anyway, guys. Finally, predictions for the World Cup. Then, have you had a chance to have a think about who's your favourites to win the tournament? Martin, I'll ask you first. Are you looking forward to it?
Oh, look, I'm looking forward to a bit, I suppose. I love sport, I love football. I'll watch what we can. I don't even know what the time difference is. Australia is
It's going to be shocking. It's shocking enough for me. It's going to be even more shocking for you. You'll have a few early morning games, mind you. You'll be able to watch if you're not working.
I would think I think Australia's not just in the group of death; it's in the group of absolute horrible death type thing. So I don't have I think they'll do what they can, but yeah, I think they're going to get humped. To be honest, I'll take interest in it. I'll take interest in it, but I'm not that bothered by it, I suppose. Who do I think will win? I think being in their hometown, Brazil, has to be an absolute favourite. Spain, no team has ever, apart from Brazil, no team has ever won it outside. A European team's never won it in the Americas. So I would think Spain would do well, and then really it's. I suppose God knows you throw an Argentina again in there, you throw a Germany in there, the stand-up powerhouses, but you just don't know. You just don't know.
England won't do much, will they?
Nah, not at all. I'm actually
think they will. They think they will, but
they think they will. I'll be honest, I can't remember a World Cup that they've not went to thinking they're not going to do really well at, and look, I actually thought probably about 10 years ago they should have, with the actual squad they had and that, they should have done a lot better than they did. But yeah, I don't think. I think in a group with Uruguay, Costa Rica, and Italy, there's no easy games there.
Marty boy.
Are you on it?
Mate, I'm exhausted. Come on, I told you I wanted this thing to last for about 25 minutes, and we're up to for part B, we're up to 2 hours and 10 minutes. Come on.
163 minutes. We're fine. We're fine. We're right.
God, the wind lasted less than this.
Right,
this is gone.
What's your thoughts on the World Cup? Are you looking forward to it like a little kid before Christmas?
Nah, a bit the same as Martin. Looking forward to it because it's football on the telly. But yeah, it's no Scotland in it, so as long as England don't win it, don't really care. Probably Brazil are probably favourites, you'd say, because obviously on their own patch and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think my biggest fear is that the Aussies get absolutely humped in every game, because that's and it could happen because they kind of built up I'm trying to think of the word, but they sort of built up this reputation and stuff, obviously in a country that's dominated by other sports, like soccer would probably be third, fourth on the list. You're talking to Aussie rules, rugby league, cricket, and then maybe soccer. But in terms of
rugby union as well,
I'd say I'm not convinced at rugby union. I think rugby league certainly, because I'm from New South Wales and Queensland. But so they play against Spain, they play against the Netherlands and Chile in that section, and that's a horrible. And this Australian team's not like the Australian team of years gone by. There's no Kewell, there's no Viduka, that sort of guys. There's just no real quality in the team. There's no sort of standout players. I fear for what's going to happen to them, and it's that reputation, and the teams are built up in the past few World Cups, and they've really battled well and actually done not too badly. I think that could all be undone very quickly in 3 games. So, because the Aussies are very fickle, that they'll become the laughing stock and just rather than something to be proud of. But so that's kind of my biggest fear of it. But as I said, we know Scotland in it, even though Ireland in it is probably the second team to look for. I don't really care who wins it, but anyone but England. That old, I need to look at that old logo, the old ABE logo that I sent out. That was floating around the last one. So yes, as long as you like to see a few games, same as Martin. We might get up for 1 or 2 of them. Might get up for some of the England games in the hope they get humped. But probably be recording a few of them and catching them later on. Or SBS are normally pretty good with highlights or on delay or something like that as well. So, but we'll see how we go.
Liam, how do you think Japan will do?
Japan's got a really interesting group. I mean, they could win the group or they could finish bottom of it. It's 4.
Who's in their group?
Colombia, Greece, and Ivory Coast.
Oh man, that's great.
They're all kind of good second string teams. There's no a big team amongst them, but there's no really a Diddy team in there either. So it's an interesting one. It really is. I fancy them to get second in the group behind Colombia and make it to the last 16. And for there, it really depends who they get.
And who do you think is going to win the thing outright?
Well, what I usually do with the World Cup, I've got 3 bets, right? I've got my banker, the team that I actually think is going to win it, my outside chance, and then just my wild one that I do for fun, right?
Yeah.
So, my banker is Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I think Germany have got a
what
really
price
good
are you
team.
getting for them? What price are you getting for them?
I haven't actually done my coupon yet, but last time I checked, I think they were about 10s.
All right. It's certainly good value.
All right.
Now,
They're always there or thereabout, aren't they, Jeremy? They're always there or thereabout. And just with the strength of the Bundesliga just now as well. It's.
I just remember the last World Cup, you had players like, who's that one with the googly eyes? No, Craig White, the other one. Plays for Arsenal, what's his name?
Egil Ozil.
Ozil, that's it, aye. He was... Him and about 2 or 3 other players, they were good at the last World Cup, but they were just that wee bit below their prime. And he's like 25 now, so I think they'll all just be hitting their peak at the right moment. The same way as Spain did 4 years ago. I think they've got a lot of players who are just hitting their prime at the right time.
Yep. No, it's probably not a bad shout. As we said, that they're always there or thereabouts. I think the only thing that might go against them is how they handle playing in South America and playing Brazil, but I think it's not a bad shout, Liam. It's not a bad shout, especially if you can get 10-1 for them. It's a decent shout.
My outsider. Now this was the annoying thing because like about 6 months ago they were 33-1, but they've come into 14s now. Belgium.
Yep.
I fancy them just. I don't know if they'll win it, but I think they're looking good for probably quarterfinals or semi-finals anyway. And once you get there, there's always a chance of a shock.
Yep.
And just my crazy one, I'll have a couple of quid on Japan just because, patriotic reasons.
Fair enough. So you don't fancy the chances of Brazil or Spain that we mentioned earlier?
Brazil, I think, will bottle it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there's a lot of unease going on in Brazil, and a lot of the Brazilians don't even want the World Cup. So there's going to be a lot of apathy. If Brazil lose their first game, for example, the crowds are going to be right up their backs, and they could bottle it. They could do what France did a few years ago and crash out in the first round. I mean, it could happen. I don't see it happening, but there's that possibility because there's a lot of stuff just under the surface for Brazil right now that isn't going very well.
There'll certainly be a lot of pressure on them to do well anyway, that's for sure.
And they've got a young team as well. I mean, you remember what happened to Ronaldo at the '98 World Cup? The poor guy basically had a nervous breakdown before the final, Something like that could happen again with it, because it's going to be even more pressure now because it's in Brazil.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing was Spain. I think Spain are past it. Not past it. I mean, they're still a very good team, but I don't think they're the best in the world anymore. Another wee interesting bet, just before I finish, you can get, I think it was 25-1. No, sorry, 14-1, England to get out the tournament without getting a point.
Mm-hmm.
And 25-1, England to go out without scoring a goal.
I'd love
I don't
to
see it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen. It'd be lovely to think, but a game against Costa Rica.
But they're playing them last, at which point they might have already been humped in the first 2 games and they'll be out anyway.
Well, I like your thinking, Liam. I hope you're right. We'll find out. Well, guys, listen, we're going to do the final. We'll find out how that World Cup goes anyway. It's going to keep us entertained, I suppose, over the summer months back home or the winter months here, or the summer months up in Japan, of course, for you, Liam. But just before we do the roundup, laughing here, Tom Doherty sent in another little tweet to us to say that, and he's going on obviously about the length of time that the show's going on here, Martin. He's sympathising with you here. But it's nice to see you're still listening, Tom. But he says, tell Martin that during the time you've been on air, that he's managed to make coal. So that's quite impressive, Tom, I have to say. But good on you for sticking with us as well.
There's another one in the chat room, Kev. We've got Toby Jug, who who's had an agreement with his boss that he was allowed to listen to the show until it ends, and that was 45 minutes ago, and he's still listening. So
meant to finish work. You're probably meant to finish work.
Now, if I'm reading this right, he's working at Asda Parkhead, mate. I don't know if I'm reading that right, but anyway, either you're going to Asda Parkhead or you're working in Asda Parkhead. So there you go.
Yes, well, we have. It's definitely been longer than was anticipated, but we say this every bloody show.
This is almost 3 hours. This one, though. Oh dear.
I know. Right, let's start wrapping it up. Martin, do your shout outs or any little mention.
Alright, shout out to the wife again, because she may not have heard the start of it. We might not have an iPod big enough or an iPhone big enough to download the podcast, so I shout out to my wife, because I generally forget to say that, to tell her I love her. Shout out to my 3 boys, that Daddy loves you very much. Shout out to my cousin Sean, who does listen to it, and anybody else out there that knows me. And that's it, really.
Good on you, Martin. Are you staying with us till the very death, or are you going to bugger off now because you're yawning?
Starting to close up now. I'm seeing 2 hours 12 minutes. If it's going to be maybe finished, I don't know, maybe even just within the 4 hour mark, I'll probably stay for that. But if you're going to push it on to the 5 hours, then I may just have to go to my bed.
Good on you, Martin. Liam, what about yourself? What's happening with the Osaka CSC?
Still only the one member, I'm afraid.
At least you're consistent.
True. Right. It's not like Sevco shares; it's not gone down at all. You know.
That's true. That's true.
My shout out, actually, one shout out I'd like to give would be to the 3 of you guys, to say thank you for bringing me onto your show this season. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm looking forward to doing it again next season. And thank you for having me.
Oh, Kev, have you not told Liam? Maybe we should do this off here. So,
because it's funny, Liam, before you joined us, we did this thing who would be with us next year, and there was a vote that we didn't think you were going to make the grade, mate.
So we're going to loan you out in January. We're going to. Yeah.
Oh, God. Just don't loan me the Vanguard Bears, alright?
Actually, on that, actually, Liam's been spruiking himself. He's desperate to do a World Cup podcast. So if anybody out there in Hill Media Land, if you've managed to last the 4.5 hours that we've been sitting here, Liam's desperate to do a podcast with somebody about the World Cup. So there you go.
Actually, sorry, on that, can I put a shout out to Billy Noel, that if he did want to do a Desert Island Tims with me, I'd be more than happy to do that as well. I don't think he does, but I just want to put it out there that I'd be more than happy to do that.
Martin, you're not the start. You're not the start of the show here. Right? Just you piss off. Go to bed. Move. You're delirious now, right?
You know, just putting it out there. You know, I don't think I'm the star, Pat. You are. We all know you're the housewife's choice. You know, Derek Beatty. You know, you're housewife's favourite, mate. You're a good wee boy that, you know, is good to people and everything, and, you know, just nice and clean cut and everything, and, you know, that's you, Pat. That's you.
Well, Martin, seeing as you're doing shout-outs like that, I'll say Graham Norton, if you're listening, I'll happily come on to your chat show, mate, and have a bit of a laugh and stuff like that. It's good for the profile, I believe.
Aye. Like, do you think you could cope with Graham Norton?
In which way, Martin? Are you talking sexually, or in which sort of way, shape or form? In terms, just define cope.
Oh, I was talking about being interviewed, Pat.
Okay. No, I'm just clearing it up. Just clearing it up.
You even interviews, but you know.
Just clearing it up. That's all. Just get the facts right.
Anyway, enough. Liam, it's been a pleasure having you on the show this season, mate.
Thank you.
And you'll obviously be a key component if you wish when these continue. And I think I mentioned it earlier on. Myself and Pat had been having a chat because end of last season we wrapped these podcasts up for a little break, but we were thinking we might do something during the close season. But there'll be more about that. We'll be in touch with you about that if we have some ideas. Pat's definitely got some little ideas floating about, so we'll see how that goes. But no, it's been great to have you on, Liam. It's always great hearing your perspective, mate. And you're the brains of the outfit, mate. The intelligent viewpoints of the outfit. You always come out with some little gems, and you've got this different perspective on things, which is very good, rather than just listening to fucking Martin talking pish and Pat and me talking pish.
So hold on a minute. I just want to check. If he's the brains and Pat's a housewife's choice and you're the guy that holds it together, am I just here for my good looks and charm?
Obviously, Martin.
Good.
Obviously, that's why
Just
you're
keep
here.
telling yourself that, Martin.
No, you're the straight man that we can just point at and laugh and mock every 30 seconds. So I think that's your role from now on, as if it hasn't been anyway. Anyway, this is really dragging on. We're going through the gutter now.
So Patrick, what's your? In fact, I'll do my bits before I hand over to you, mate, and then you can do the outro, as it were. But I'll just say the usual. Hail to everybody back in the Erngobra CSC in Coatbridge. Anybody that's listening in the Mandurah CSC. We've still to have, hopefully we'll have a little end of season shindig of some description, because we had the game obviously on Sunday there, which was a good laugh, but we want to have a little formal end of season do, so we need to arrange that. But we also need to have a meeting, because it's been a long time since we've had a formal meeting. And we've got a few things to discuss at the club as well, so that'll hopefully happen over the close season. But yeah, other than that, I think that's probably... Celtic Australis, I'll give them a little shout out again. I think their Twitter handle is @OzCelts, so you can follow them on Twitter. They won their game last weekend, I believe, which is quite good. And as next season progresses, we'll give you a little update as to how they're going. That new football team that's formed in Perth in Western Australia, and it's there's a load of good Celtic boys involved with Celtic Australis, so I'll be keeping you up to date with how they're going. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. So Pat, what's your shout outs, mate? And then you can also lead us out with the outro.
Yeah, well, maybe I should just do the normal outro, because this is going for way too long. What do you reckon?
No, do the full thing.
The one it goes for 8 minutes. Oh, I'm not sure we got enough time. Anyway, Bobby Murdoch, right? It's Bobby Murdoch. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right, so not really any shout out, but next time we'll probably chat, Kev, will be in about 3 weeks' time.
It's the big huddle down under.
The huddle down under, exactly. So we will be on the Gold Coast, and I have acquired a recording device that I've borrowed from work, Kev, so we'll get a little sound bites from people on the Gold Coast, and we'll rattle up a little podcast, and I've got no idea how we'll do it. We'll just rattle up some questions that we can fire at people, and yeah, we'll get people to introduce themselves, because they're going to be from all over the place in Scotland, and maybe just do a little show of some sort. It'll just be like a pre-recorded thing, but we'll see how we go with that. But yeah, so 3 weeks from now we'll be on the Gold Coast. So we're going to do a quick push to try and, just I've mentioned this to a few people, but I've got this fear that you're going to meet somebody in the street who's a Celtic supporter, and you're going to chat and say, "Oh, we're up to the Gold Coast in June, and it was absolutely fantastic," and they're going to go, "I know nothing about that. How did I not know about it?" And we're getting people through our club saying, they didn't know anything about this thing that's going on. So I made a promise through Chris to go on the Homeboys, and they've cancelled the podcast twice, and I've been up at 5 a.m. on both occasions to go into Homeboys, and I've got up and I've fired up my computer and all that stuff, got ready, and it's been cancelled. So third time lucky. I think they're on Monday, and I'm hopefully going to go in there and just hopefully let some folk back in Scotland know. But it's more just to spread the word of, if they know anybody in Australia, any relatives, because it's not too late. There's still cheap flights around there. If you hunt sort of hard enough, you'll find some cheap flights from all over the place to either Brisbane or the Gold Coast. So there may be a few sort of stragglers that come along. That we've just through our club, we've had a bit of contact with one or two guys. One guy's just moved to Byron Bay, so he wants to come as well. So yeah, we're just trying to put people in touch with Chris. So lots of things going on. The website's down at the moment because Chris is moving it between provider internet sort of companies, and I think hopefully that'll be up at the weekend. But so yeah, anyone who's interested, go to Facebook and look for Gold Coast Celtic. The event's on June the 6th until June the 8th on the Gold Coast. So if you've got any relatives in Australia or New Zealand or anywhere in this neck of the woods, maybe just drop them an email or a message of some sort and just say, like, do you know about it? So on Facebook, go and look for Gold Coast Celtic and you'll find the group. Just ask to join it, and Chris and myself or Stephen or one of the guys will sort of add you to the group, and then you can just fire away your questions. So yep, Jockstein CSC will hopefully, you kind of get a feeling sometimes that the supporters club's kind of drifting away a little bit, and then you have a night like Sunday night and there's 40 odd blokes there and it just goes off, and it was absolutely brilliant. So we'll hopefully be back bigger and stronger next year again. So, and yeah, that's it. So hello to everyone back in Airdrie and the guys in the Wally Gorman bus. Hope you're all doing well and looking forward to the Champions League qualifiers. But I think that's about all I've got to say, really. There's probably other stuff and I forgot, but.
Well, thanks to everybody again, those that did interact tonight as well, whether you were in the chat room. I know Toby Jug was in there. And Tom Doherty sent us a few tweets earlier on as well. So did 6-2 Kangaroo. The line awake 67 Shed as well. So thanks guys for interacting with us tonight. Thanks for sticking it out for the 3 and a bit hours or whatever we've been on. It's quite a marathon session, right enough. But yeah, other than that, Pat, if you want to play us out, this is a little tribute, as we said right back at the start of the show. It's the anniversary of not only Tommy Burns but Bobby Murdoch passing away as well. And before we have the Half the World Away tune to play us out, there's just a little tribute that the Human Torpedo did a while back on Bobby Murdoch. So Pat, if you can play us out with that now.
Well, fingers crossed it works, because we have had a few sort of technical issues tonight. So if it just cuts off, I do apologise. But anyway, thanks everybody. We'll hopefully be speaking to you during the close season at some stage. If not, we'll be back for the start of the season anyway. So stay tuned.
Good
all right, thanks
guys. Hail, 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 hail.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Bobby Murdoch, the complete footballer. Another slice of Celtic history from www.kerrydalestreet.com. The Celtic Wiki. Celtic Football Club has been a proud home of many great footballers. From the gallus genius of Patsy Gallagher and Jimmy Johnston to the goal-scoring prowess of Jimmy McGrory and Henrik Larsson, the history of the Hoops is rich pickings for anyone seeking a football hero. But among all those to have ever donned the famous green and white, few, if any, was indispensable to the Celtic cause as the legendary Bobby Murdoch. Born in 1944 in Bothwell and raised in Rutherglen, Bobby signed for Celtic as a part-timer in August 1959, when he combined his fledgling football career with an apprenticeship as a sheet metal worker. Initially farmed out to junior side Cambuslang Rangers, he joined the Parkhead ranks on a permanent basis in 1961. Bobby's first team debut came against Hearts on August 11, 1962. He would make an immediate impact with a debut goal after just 7 minutes, as the boys won the League Cup tie 3-1. Part of a youthful but underachieving Celtic side, the teenage Murdoch was initially played in the forward line at inside right, where he was a competent rather than outstanding performer. As talented as young Bobby was, no one at that time could have possibly imagined that here was a player with the potential to become one of the greatest in the history of Scottish football. No one, that is, apart from Jock Stein. When Big Jock returned to Parkhead in 1965, one of his earliest decisions as manager was to withdraw Bobby from the Hoops forward line and put him alongside the tenacious Bertie Ode at the very heart of his new look Celtic. It was an inspired move. Now fielded at right half, Bobby Murdoch blossomed. Strong and powerful, Murdoch coupled a robust physique with a delightfully delicate touch. His broad frame was perhaps more typical of a midfield workhorse, but his elegance on the ball proved beyond any doubt that here was a genuine football thoroughbred. In attacking mode, Bobby Murdoch posed a nightmare conundrum few defenders could solve. His vision allowed him to frequently dissect the most organised and resilient of defences, with passes of seemingly impossible precision. With the ball at his feet, Bobby conducted the sweet symphony that was Jock Steven's Celtic. His play displayed an almost intuitive telepathy, and the likes of Johnston, Lennox, Chalmers, McBride and Wallace all revelled in the sublime intelligence and passing of Murdoch. Bobby's astute distribution gave Celtic's play a sophistication unrivalled in Scotland, but his weaponry also included less subtle tools, one of which was perhaps the most explosive and accurate shots in Scottish football. While Bobby's qualities on the ball are those best remembered, he was equally effective in his defensive duties. Murdoch had a wonderful sense of anticipation, and this allowed him to quickly close down opponents and pick up stray passes. He battled for every loose ball, and few rivals came out on top against his fierce and fearless tackler. Voted Scottish Player of the Year in 1969, it is little surprise that with Murdoch in the engine room, Celtic collected trophies by the barrowload. Bobby's collection of winners' medals include the European Cup, 7 League Championships, 4 Scottish Cups and 5 League Cups. By the time he moved on to Middlesbrough in 1973, Bobby Murdoch had played 484 games for Celtic and scored 105 goals. Jock Stein would later comment that Bobby was about the best player he had ever managed. It was a remark few experts would challenge. Yet despite all this, the Celtic midfielder was selected just 12 times for Scotland. It is a total which is little more than an insult to the immense talent of Bobby Murdoch. Indeed, it is a total that says infinitely more about the attitude within Scottish football than Bobby's ability. But while his fellow countrymen were reluctant to fully recognise Bobby's talent, illustrious opponents from around the globe had no such hesitation. As the legendary figure of Elenio Herrera reflected on Inter Milan's defeat to Celtic in Lisbon, he declared, "Bobby Murdoch is my complete footballer." In the run-up to the World Club Championship in 1967, a scout from Racing Club was emphatic in identifying the main threat to his team's chances. He said, "Bobby Murdoch, he is Celtic." Roberto Passaiola, coach of the Fiorentina side, eliminated from the 1970 European Cup by the boys, remarked, "Murdoch is a papa of the team. The rest are the sons around him." Bobby Murdoch died on May 15, 2001, following a stroke. He was the first of the legendary Lisbon Lions to pass away. Modest and unassuming off the pitch, Bobby Murdoch was adored by a Celtic support who recognised not only a wholehearted and world-class footballer, but also a real gentleman. His death touched everyone who had Celtic and football close to their hearts. As acclaimed writer Hugh McIlvanney wrote in his tribute to Bobby, "Celtic have never lost a more distinguished son."
I would like to leave this city. This old town don't smell too pretty, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. And when I leave this island, I book myself into a soul asylum. 'Cause I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. So here I go, still scratching around in the same old hole. My body feels young, but my mind is very old. So what do you say? You can't